don't want me to come to the meetings.
Oh, yeah. That's not functioning, is it?
You already over there?
It is now.
It is.
Their water from the river is actually working. There you go, boss. After.
Being 7 o'clock, I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here for the July 18th, 2017 meeting of Duncannon Borough Council. I call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to please rise for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Grogan, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to welcome the secretary to provide a roll call. He disappeared in the time I looked down.
Trying to keep the AC in the room.
Okay, Mr. Crothermel.
Here.
Mr. Epley.
Present.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Nace.
Present.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Kirkhoff.
Here.
Ms. Young.
Here.
Mayor Capuana.
Here.
Solicitor DeSinger.
Here.
Engineer Rogalski.
Here. A friendly reminder, if you have any kind of electronic device, a cell phone or pager, etc., please place it on vibrate silent so as not to interrupt the meeting. Thank you. Number 5 on the agenda before you, we should have copies of the June 20th meeting minutes, the draft form meeting minutes for your review. We should have had those since late last week. Is there any wish for action or comment on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Crothermel to adopt the minutes as presented for June 20th, 2017. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, number 6 is public comment. Has everyone had a chance to sign in? Benjamin Jones didn't indicate either way. I wish you're on the agenda. Indeed. Kathy Smith, a question mark? Mike Rogan, you have the floor. If
Question.
you could please just state your address.
Pardon?
If you could state your address for the record.
Mike Rogan, 1016 North Market Street, Duncannon, PA, 17020, 1820.
Perfect.
I'd like to ask Borough Council to take some type of action to fix up my driveway. I guess it was about 2 months ago when you flushed the hydrants. A good bit of all my crushed stone got washed off of my driveway. The bigger stone we were able to rake back in. So that's what I'm here for.
Are you aware of anything with that, Chris?
I was aware that there was a call asking about a complaint about it. I went out and checked it, and must have been after it was raked back in because I saw no signs of any erosion. I didn't know, if there was any fine stone on top of it. That was not, anything that had been communicated to me. So when I went out and checked it, it did not appear. It appeared like it was taken care of or had been okay. I would want to check with Mike, and then they did the flushing, but.
Do you have any pictures of the damage?
No, it wasn't Mike. Kevin was there. He was the one that actually did the flushing.
Way to go, Kevin.
Are you aware? Or?
Oh, yeah, we helped rake things back together, and I know he came down and spoke with Chris. That's why Chris went out, because there was several other incidences where we had concerns, and this was generated differently from other flushing because newer DEP stipulations require us to now dechlorinate the water. And so there was a apparatus machine put on the hydrant to dechlorinate, currently not allowing us to deflect the flow, meaning it's stuck straight on the edge of the hydrant that we couldn't. Before we used to have an angle that we could sort of turn it and have the flow onto the street, or with this apparatus, with the pressures coming out,
So hard, yeah.
it's, you know, if you use a fire hose or something, you're gonna have some weight, or have to hook it up to a truck bed, or do something differently to, because with the pressures, when you open those hydrants up, if you just have a fire hose, it's gonna, and then we'll have a bigger issue because it'll be smacking whatever, yeah, so it is something that we gotta look at. We had said between Mike Riley and the other guys here talking, if we can't attain something for the next flushing, maybe something is carrying some pieces of plywood. Put it down there. You're still gonna have washout, but it won't be nearly as bad. We're still gonna have rock. If we do your place again, even with a piece of plywood, we're still gonna have rock coming away. Do you think?
Just aim it the other way and wash out 10, 12.
Watch out the neighbors.
It'd be a lot nicer.
But yeah, so there is going to, we need to come up with a better plan due to the newer restraints we have for flushing, so, yeah.
Is there damage to this day? Is there damage?
Yeah, it's down about 1 inch to 2 inches from the actual concrete driveway. The rough stone, like Chris says, yes, four of us were there, Mike Wolfensberger and Bob was it also, the two gentlemen doing the flushing, and Mike and I, so we all grabbed rakes and shovels, and we got a lot of it back. But it's unbelievable how much water comes out of that. And now it's not directed out onto the road anymore. It's just like Kevin said, it's shooting onto the residents' properties.
Do you have an estimate of what the cost would be to make you whole?
No, a ton or two of crushed stone and just, a couple guys rake it out, a couple bucks. I don't think crushed stone is that much. It's not that it's an expense. My more concern is that the council's aware of the situation so that there is a remedy done to it, so there is no future damage.
We are now.
Well, that's a good thing I came there. And that's why I'm here, it's not to stir up anything, because we got enough issues in our town. And like I said, my biggest concern is that we do some type of remedy. I know we have to dechlorinate the water, which don't make a lot of sense to me, because we got to add chlorine to the water before we discharge it from the sewer plant. That's our DEP. I'll say no more. I just would like something, like I said, I won't be there the rest of this week, but if something, like if we could just make some arrangements, like a little bit of crushed stone and, level it out. And if we still have a roller, if you can bring the roller up and pack it down, that would be sweet.
Had I been aware that there was the fine stone rushed out, we would have done it with no need for council authorization or anything, so I would highly recommend that we take care of it. If we did the damage, we should fix it.
Bill, any need for an easement to do work on private property?
Well, we should have the consent of the landowner.
Sounds like we do.
Maybe we could note that in the minutes and,
Absolutely, 100%, I consent. Yes, and I appreciate, Chris, that I didn't know you had come up. I hadn't heard anything, so I do.
I went out and looked and it looked like it was fixed, so that's.
Well, we did, we busted tail, we got a lot of it back, but all the
Yeah.
crushed stones all down in the neighbor's backyard, and, it kind of disappeared into the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. If that was the case, then we should take care of it.
Just, because it's level, because going in and out of that driveway, which that's, kind of bring up another situation, are we clear with that now, is that good?
I just want to put that to bed. Chris, you'll touch base with Mr. Grogan this week with him and Mike and take care of it.
Yes.
Okay.
But
there's that.
also, we're
Now,
gonna do
This week
something.
won't be good, I'm leaving tomorrow, I won't be back till next week. It's nice being retired.
Okay. When you get back, do you want to let Chris know you're back?
I definitely will.
All right.
Thank you, Chris,
Not a problem.
appreciate
You
it.
still have 2.5 minutes. You still have 2.5 minutes. You said there was something else?
Yes, because of that, and that area that was washed out so much, due to all the sewer work we have had done and everything, in our newsletter says about being conscious about our sidewalks. Well, as you know, I'm overly conscious about my property. The sidewalk that was cut out and replaced during the sewer operation is cracked. Is that my responsibility to fix?
I don't know. Yes.
Typically,
All up and
typically it's
down
your
there.
responsibility, but I'm not sure if did the borough, I wasn't here when the project was done. The borough did the
Yes,
installation?
everywhere on Market Street.
No,
The vendor did it, right?
contract.
The borough had the
But-
contract.
Yeah, contractor did, Chris, not our workforce.
No, but it was done by the borough, the contractor.
So everywhere where there's a driveway where they made accesses from the sewer lines, if you walk up and down Market Street, you see that they're cracked. And of course, that's gonna create some headaches here. And if they haven't really heaved, maybe some of them have more than others, but mine, you know, it's just cracked right now, but it's definitely gonna raise eventually. So that's my question, is that my responsibility, or being that we went to the lowest bidder on our sewer informations, are we stuck with what we got?
Unless the contractor did something improper. Cracked concrete is not an unusual occurrence. Maintenance of the sidewalk is the responsibility of the landowner.
Well, we're talking 2 years, 3 years maybe? The rest of my sidewalk's been in 30 years, and there's no cracks anywhere. I mean, it was definitely not packed enough on all of these, so now that there's, you know, vehicles crossing over and they're cracked, that they weren't put in properly.
Would we have any course of action with the contractor?
We would have to show that he didn't operate in a workmanlike manner, in a reasonable manner. You'd have to have it investigated by.
But Greg, could you take a look at it? Yeah. Next time you're up there for something and give us an evaluation, and then we can go from that?
There is a warranty period that was associated with the contract. Now, I don't know, like, was this just the last time?
Now, it's second to last, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, so I suspect that warranty period has expired, but, we can look at it.
Undoubtedly the case.
And if it's, I mean, if it is multiple properties on that, you know, just that piece that was done in that particular instance, you know, we may be able to show that, you know, something wasn't done well. I've seen firsthand, you know, dealing with contractors after the fact. I don't foresee that being.
Me neither, yeah, I don't see, and particularly this length of time too.
Right.
But, you know, that just, you know, since our newsletter come out, it just, you know, create a question, and I'm curious about it.
Greg will take a look at it and report back next month.
Yep.
So we have it on the radar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
It's maybe later.
Okay, we've got a second period at the end. Thank you. Tyler Harrison, no. Luke Roman, no. Josh Parrish, yes.
Hello everyone, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Josh Parrish, Nature Conservancy. Just want to continue to say, Nature Conservancy is excited to continue to work with the borough on the watershed project. And I'm here for any questions you might have tonight or anything else regarding it. So just wanted to put my name on the 3-minute agenda just to say hello, and I'm here, and yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone that did not? Yes, Mr. Rose.
I had a question for him.
Okay.
Oh, great.
If this deal would be going through, is the borough allowed to go through with any green energy projects on that property?
That's something we'd have to work out in the conservation easement. I wouldn't rule it out, but it would have to be in the appropriate areas for green energy, absolutely.
'Cause 8 years ago, I was in here asking Borough Council to start our green energy up there when we had tons of money in the Sunshine Fund. And we just didn't have the leadership apparently, but whatever. You know, you point out in your areas there's some blight areas, there's some areas that aren't good timber areas. Now, could they be looked at as possibly doing green? If we would have went green 8 years ago, we might not even have electric bill now.
What is the Sunshine Fund?
Sunshine Fund was established by Obama or prior to him, where if you do green energy type works, that money and credits go back into their overall green building. In other words, they gave so much money, and if you build green energy, all the kilowatts of power that you're putting back on the grid goes towards green energy credits and then towards their, I guess, world thing. But everybody was doing it. Heck, the Amish were even putting fields in and then pumping the electric back in, you know, charging us for it. There was tons of this. It was called the Sunshine Fund.
Are you familiar with that at all, Greg?
Well, there was a grant program basically, and it was probably in that time frame, and
Yeah.
that's when you saw that first round of solar, mainly solar, a couple of wind projects too. They were getting ridiculous subsidies out of, I don't know who it was, but
Were
the
government
state.
entities, or was that mainly private?
No, well, private entities were selling it on behalf of the government. They'll kind of like take care of it for you.
A lot of
So
mobile home parks got it.
yeah, and they were all over this, but then the money just disappeared,
Okay.
and you know it fell
And
off.
yes.
Everybody jumped on
The
it.
SRECs are really low too for
Yeah,
solar.
houses right around here, I know a couple of them that did it, you know, on their own, because there were state funds, there was federal funds, and then there was even local funds.
So to answer your question, it would be permitted if there were proper sites to site it. You know, so you wouldn't want it on the side of a cliff, or by a creek, or in a big interior forest area. I will say there is a good shade effect from the north side of the mountain with the sun. So the azimuth of the sun and the tilt.
That would all have to be, yeah,
That-
that's
that-
for the scientists. to
Yeah,
look
right,
at.
right. That affects basically how much solar energy you get, so.
My basic question is, would we be able to, if those funds were available?
Yeah, and if it made sense from a siting perspective, yeah, I would think, yeah. Yeah, if you were on the south side of the mountain, you'd be talking a different story. The sunny side, as they call it, yeah.
I know there's concern also with the Appalachian Trail easement, that we're not allowed to put anything visible from there
Right,
to
there's a view
see.
shed
Right,
clause, yep.
so we have to be careful
Right.
where we
There's
go
a lot
that way
of-
too. Yeah,
So it's not eliminated, but it
No.
may not be.
Nothing inherent.
as easy as it sounds.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? That's the town secretary for the record. Thank you. Next is number 7 on the agenda, watershed forest assessment presentation by Ben Jones, associated with the Pennsylvania Game Commission. I understand.
Yes.
Last month, during our conversation about the easement process, we identified that we have some potentially conflicting information or some conflicting recommendations from our long-term forester and the forester.
Mike Wolf was here,
Mike Wolf
Appalachian
from-
Forest
yeah.
Consultants, and then Mike Ackley, a Nature Conservancy forester.
So we've invited Ben Jones from the Game Commission to make a presentation. You're on.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words and to spend some time on a really fantastic property. I live up in New Bloomfield and travel through Duncannon every day. And it's a gorgeous backdrop, the town of Duncannon, on my way in and on my way back out. Although I had never spent any time on the property, so this is a great opportunity to do that. And it's a great opportunity for local residents, as you all know well. Coordinating with Chris to get in there, found out there was a scout group that was out camping for a couple days. There were no less than 10 or 12 cars there at the parking lot, and this was, before 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. So really neat property from that resource, the recreational resource perspective. Also very important to you all, of course, because of the clean water perspective as well, and also for revenue generation. And I will mention from that standpoint that Pennsylvania Game Commission, though we're a state agency, we're a small independent agency, and we don't receive any state tax dollars. So my point in telling you that is that we too, on our lands, depend on that revenue from things like timber sales for our operating budget. So in my tour of the property, that certainly wasn't lost, the importance of that source of revenue as a property owner. In that, this is where things get really tough, where you're dependent on that revenue. A lot of times with forest management today, and I'm certain that you heard this from Josh and Mike Ackley and Mike Wolf, there are a lot of times upfront steps that need to be taken to ensure that after you cut, you're getting what you want back. And the tough thing there is those upfront costs, those upfront activities are costly. So you need money, you need revenue generation. You get a consulting forester, you go, we need the revenue. This happens so many times on private lands, but then your consulting forester says, well, you actually have to spend some money on this right now to do it in such a way. So that can be tough, and a lot of times those initial steps don't get done, and there are things to fix then down the road. And we are your neighbor to the south, State Game Lands 170 on the cove there. So we've dealt with a lot of the same issues with invasive species, with birch and other undesirable species. When we cut in the past, things weren't coming back like we wanted them. So about 10 years ago, we convinced our Board of Commissioners and our executive office, we've got to take a bit of a time out on this piece. We need to invest some money in some past issues, and we need to invest some money so we can sustainably harvest again. Because we're in this for the long haul. This will be a funding source for us for a long time, generations and generations past me and all of us in this room. So we've got to make sure that we're spending that money, investing early on so that we can harvest and leave it good for later. So we were able to do that, and many of you may have noticed that we have started harvesting up here again. We've got a couple hundred acres in timber harvest just this year after investing some of those upfront funds. So that's very important. But it's tough to do. The Water Authority ground is enrolled, I don't know how many of you know this, in the Game Commission's Hunter Access program. And as a cooperator in the Hunter Access program, the Game Commission, about 5 years ago, we pursued some grant funding. So we have funding available through a USDA grant to be able to assist landowners with just this type of work. Some of that upfront things that gives landowners difficulties, we can help with through this USDA grant since you're a Hunter Access cooperator. It's 100% no cost share to the landowner. We'll help with foresters on the ground, making recommendations if you were to go forward with the forest management plan. Just to tell you, we'd be an active partner and we'd be able to bring funding to the table to do a lot of this work, to prep things for future harvest, and maybe also fix some things that might have gone wrong with invasive species or undesirable trees coming in from past work. So again, that's 100% cost share, and those funds are going to be available for a short time longer. We'll apply for the grant again, but the funding is available now for certain. And we've done this kind of work with other municipal water authorities. The Bethlehem Water Authority is a great example. Also just enrolled with Mount Union Water Authority doing the same kind of work. Lock Haven Water Authority. A lot of similar landowners following this model. So we think it's a great opportunity. Having looked at the ground, I think it's a tremendous opportunity to get involved with working with us, get involved with the easement, realize some revenue from that conservation easement, and also working with us to help set things up for the future to ensure that revenue generation is there for the long term, and to ensure that this beautiful piece of property is there for Perry County residents and Duncannon residents and residents from all over the world, quite frankly, with the AT there. So we're fully supportive. We think what we've seen on the land that it would benefit from something like this, and we'd be an active partner. Take any questions you all may have.
Any questions from the table?
I have some questions. I've been looking at this for the prospect of trying to get that mountain cleared up with the invasive species and the black birch and whatever it is. There's hundreds of acres out there, and we haven't had any amount of money spoken to us about how much this is going to cost and how long does it take. With hundreds of acres out there, I get the idea it's like painting the Oakland or this Golden Gate Bridge. When they're done, they start all over again. And I don't see that the borough should get involved in something like that. We have enough of problems right here, and then if you're gonna get a crew together, if you just go out and hire people, and then you have to teach them, put them through school, what's the invasive species, what should we cut down, how many people we should hire. If we hire professionals and they go through there and do it, I just see a lot of costs to the borough we don't have. And this brushing of the mountain has been bothering me since we first started to discuss this. And I've got to see some actual figures, how long it takes per acre or something like that before I'm going to put my stamp of approval on this.
Yeah, certainly valid concerns, all of them, absolutely, and understood. And Josh can speak to this in a moment if he likes, but all those details will be laid out in that plan. But directly related to some of your concerns, we've been doing these kinds of things on a large scale on the game lands. And if it was a scenario where we were repeatedly having to spend the money, we can't afford to do that either. So a lot of these treatments, it's once, tip the balance back where it needs to go, and then the forest is taking care of itself. As far as training people, the money that's available from the Game Commission, the way we're doing it is through contractors. So they're contractors that have crews that are certified and trained for the applications that they're doing. They're following very strict specifications in a contract, so those things are taken care of from from that perspective. But I understand how you can see it would be a never-ending battle. And it is like trying to eat an elephant sometimes. But with the funding that we have and the contractors that are available doing this great work, I think the Bethlehem Water Authority is a great example. We did several thousand acres worth of restoration work up there, and it's going very well.
And how often does this have to be done?
We'll just take one example of one of the issues out there with the brushing in you mentioned is with Japanese stilt grass. Generally, that's 1 or 2 treatments, and then the stilt grass is at bay. It just took advantage of some circumstance that let it take off, and when you knock it back, then things generally come in to balance and get back where they need to be.
The treatment would be in what form?
Numerous forms. It could be hand cutting with chainsaws. It could be herbicide application. Something we're finding is very effective and very environmental friendly is prescribed burning. So any of a number of things can be paid for. And on the prescribed burning end, Game Commission, highly trained crews in the Game Commission would be available to assist with that. So yeah, any of a number of things, whatever it takes.
But the borough still has to be involved in this, is that correct?
Well,
I mean, as
think
the,
without question.
as the owner, yeah, we would come in and partner with you, and you would prepare a forest management plan, but you wouldn't have to physically do the work. There's partners like the Game Commission that can come in and like with Bethlehem Authority and other landowners, provide that technical expertise to get the work done. And I think Bill asked me last time I was here, being the solicitor, he was asking the right questions around liability. So let's say you enter our program and in year 5, some new thing comes into the watershed, will the easement or any of these agreements compel the borough basically to remedy the issue? And the answer there is no. You're not going to have to go out and do prescriptions and treatments every year, but what we're trying to promote is long-term sustainable forestry with resources like the Game Commission being opportunistic to capture grants and other things. And then in the long term, what you're going to have is, I mean, you have a finite amount of timber out there right now left on about 200 acres or so of mature timber. The rest of it is in various degrees of succession. So a lot of young trees, some stuff in between, a lot of black birch, which Ben talked about. And so if you fast forward another 50 years, right now, 700 to 800 of your 1,000 acres that are your working forest, your core working forest, with nothing, so putting nothing into it, we're going to essentially turn into kind of I'll say it's almost like a stagnant black birch, black gum, invasive oasis. And what we're trying to do is by doing things around the edges and doing these, things like controlling invasives, controlling native trees that are just not the right trees you want growing, that are not, black birch just don't grow well on the property. It's hard to go out there and find one good salt timber black birch. You could go back through and look at all the prospectuses of what trees you sold over the year. I bet you 70% was oak. You can just go back through and look. It's not anything made up. You're not bringing that back. You're sitting there with pole-sized trees of birch and some poplar mixed in here and there, mostly, in what you'd call the mid-story, that, the overstory's been removed. And so what we're trying to promote is, essentially in the long term, for the residents of Duncannon here, is a better bottom line. It is really what it boils down to, a better timber bottom line, but we're doing it in a way that's not compelling the borough to spend $500,000 in 5 years or hire 10 new people to get the job done. So that's where the Nature Conservancy, the Game Commission, and others, and just really where you sit here on the Kittatinny Ridge corridor, it's a critical corridor for migration for things in the next century, move south to north. I mean, we're here to basically be conservation partners in all of this. We have no other financial interests. We will not make a penny off any of your timber sales ever. We're just here to help. So I think, but your questions around that, what are we going to have to do, I think is critical. And I can put that in a better form. We can, that can be explicitly in the easement. We can make it so, you're comfortable with the commitments that you're making. And your main commitment will be, just keep it in forest, don't develop it, which I'm hoping that's consistent with people's goals and objectives here. And then when you are doing active management things, and when opportunities come up, trying to do things to promote a healthier, more sustainable forest.
I think with some of your concerns, so from the Game Commission's perspective, and I mentioned that we'd be an active partner in this, so it wouldn't be our easement, but we'd be there to provide the work, provide the funding, provide the contractors to do the work that's laid out in the easement or that's laid out in the plan. And like Josh said, we're constantly finding various grant funding to be able to do that, to provide the skilled labor essentially that you're worried about that would be coming from the borough. Because you're an active cooperator for us. You're also giving something to us that we're very interested in, and that's hunting access on the property. So as a cooperator with us in hunter access, we're going to help you do a lot of that on the ground work.
Well, I get the idea, this is a permanent setup, and down the road, somebody says, oh, we don't have any funding to help you go out and clear out the mountain. You're gonna have to do it. I don't want any parts of that.
Won't happen.
Do we, if we don't do the easement, do we still have the help from the Game Commission?
Yeah, so, right, so the investment from the Game Commission, we'd be wanting to have some kind of a detailed plan laid
Okay.
out. So that's
But
what
it could be a plan by other than an easement.
some kind of plan, yeah, right.
Thank you.
Any more questions? You guys have anything else?
Nothing else.
We have, from the Conservancy, we have a draft of the option that they've proposed, which would be the initial $100,000 payment. My recommendation to council would be that we refer that to the solicitor for review, so we have his opinion on it, and anything that we, should you choose to move forward with that, I'm sure there'd be things you might want changed in it, and so forth. So that would be my recommendation in terms of any action, would be to refer that option to the solicitor for review.
So moved.
Second.
The motion, I made the motion, Christie has seconded it, to refer the option received from the Conservancy to our solicitor for review. Any discussion?
At the last meeting, I think you brought up to talk to our current forester about this.
We already have our current forester's opinion.
Oh, we do?
Our current forester potentially thinks it's crap.
Did he give like a clarification?
Well, that was before we had any dollar amount or anything either, so we can,
Well, and no, it wasn't, but he said, that to put this property into an easement that would prevent him from foresting it was a bad decision essentially. That,
I'm just having a hard time finding a negative to what they're saying. That's why when I hear if there is another side, what is the other side? Because everything that was coming from these guys so far, I mean, maybe I'm just naive, I don't know.
Our former forester was Dennis Miser for decades, and his son was here, was it this year?
yes.
A couple months
Yes.
ago.
I remember
And gave a presentation with some opinion, I don't remember a whole lot of data, that the easement, in his experience, restricted or eliminated our abilities. If I'm speaking out of turn, please let me know. But restricted or eliminated our abilities to forest the property, for revenue as we have for many, many years.
And I think there were two things that involved there. One is that I believe his opinion was based on the plan that Josh had talked to us before about, which involved the carbon credits and so forth, which I think, Josh, is that far more restrictive, wasn't
Well,
it?
so you're balancing carbon credits with cutting timber. In this regard, it's just a working forest easement. I will say, my wife and I have a working forest easement in western Perry County, outside Blaine, and since 2006, we've had 4 harvests on an easement, on 200 acres, so.
The other thing I want to point out, just because I think it's an important point, is that when Dennis's son was here and made his presentation, you might recall I asked him one question, that was what was his assessment of the situation out there as far as invasives, and he blew it off, no problem.
And admitted he hadn't walked out on the property for
And I
several
would tell you
years.
that anybody that wants to go out, and I don't know, Ben, I don't know if you guys would have somebody that would be able to go along if council members wanted to go out and visit the forest area that would be able to point out the
Oh, I'd
species
love
and
to do that. That would
the
be
problems and so
fantastic.
forth. I mean,
Anytime, for sure.
it's a serious problem.
It's a
And to,
problem,
you know, getting to what Councilman Epley's point, absolutely, the expense of that is a concern, but at the same time, if we want to have future timber revenue, we're going to have to do something about the invasives. You know, your timber is an agricultural crop. When you're harvesting timber, that's agriculture. And a farmer has to tend to his fields. You can't just harvest and then not do anything to maintain your fields, or you're soon not going to have very productive crops.
And your final crops on most of your stands out there, I counted rings on a couple stumps from 2 years, it was about 125 years to grow that crop, 120. So it doesn't happen in 30 or 40 years. You don't turn those stands over into, you know, $1 million stands. So it's a long-term, as a forest owner myself, it's a very long-term, and it's, you have to be adaptive, because things change. And, yeah, the property, as Ben said, is a great property. It had, the underlying potential of the property, the soils, the site is outstanding. So for me, as practicing forestry and everything else, and being, you know, into agriculture, forestry agriculture, when I see parts of the site kind of hunkered down and in all these kind of gnarly, junky trees and with invasives, it just kind of gives me a little cringe, because I know the site will just grow trees like crazy. So.
To clarify, what I had asked for last month was the third uninvolved forest or.
That's what I was trying to follow, yeah.
We never took any action on that, but I've got to say I'm leaning toward more what Mr. Parrish has to say, since we've heard from the gentleman from the Game Commission.
Yeah, exactly.
And I probably should have explained this at the outset, but my responsibility with the Game Commission is overseeing this kind of management on all the state game lands statewide and all the properties enrolled in our hunter access program, so 1.5 million acres of game lands. So I oversee all these activities on that land base, so I've seen it from soup to nuts. And one thing I'll say about this place, though, the invasives are definitely there. It's an issue. It's something you for sure have to deal with. It has more promise than a lot of properties that I've been on. It wasn't nearly as discouraging as some others that I've seen.
And I think it's because the site is just such a good site. It wants to grow timber. It just needs some, what I call gardening. You got to think about it. Tending, TLC. Yeah.
When's the expectation for the grant to be awarded?
The DCNR grant?
Yeah.
So that's thank you. I have a tentative tour scheduled with DCNR, even their top leaderships are very excited about the property, August 1st. And it's supposed to be late fall would be the announcement. And I've already been beating the drum with other private individuals and have been successful raising other funds for the for doing the project. So we need a stewardship endowment. Basically, the money's for our staff to come out and work with you all over the years. We need to put that in the bank so we don't walk away in year 5 or 10 to the tune of probably $200,000 to fund basically a portion of somebody forever to work with you. That's how we do it. It's really the right way to do it, not just say we'll do it. We put the funds back. The forest management plan will probably be between $30,000 and $40,000. So I'm raising the funds to put that together. 10 years of FSC certification. I will say there's another, with the birch, there's another opportunity if we get together and do a bigger scale kind of tending or TLC in a lot of these areas that have been harvested. The answer might be to control invasives there and do some more cutting. So ironically, it might be actually to cut some more rather than just let it go in the areas that have been cut. With FSC, in the past, and this is public record, Lock Haven just harvested 1,000 acres, did a timber stand improvement like you're looking to do, and was able to sell it, basically monetize the small trees because it was FSC certified. The paper companies, Gladfelder, Verso, Domtar all want, if you look at stuff, FSC is kind of the gold standard and desired by a lot of companies. And so instead of the traditional, if you can even get it off the property, $2 a ton, $1 a ton, Lock Haven locked in $7 a ton. which from a pulp perspective is a big, it's a quantum leap in price. And they netted about $500,000 in pulp revenue on 1,000 acres. It was a heavy thinning because we were trying to get the forest back, like we're talking about here, on the right trajectory. And that was also with an easement on it. So getting back to harvesting and easements, you could call up, from a peer to peer, you could call up any of these other water authorities or towns and say, hey, you're with the Nature Conservancy, you have a working forest conservation easement. What happened in year 2?
I think my concern with the cutting was less with the easement, more with the option, because that was a 3-year moratorium on cutting, correct?
Right, 3-year, basically a 3-year window for us to raise the funds, which I want to get done. Honestly, I want to get it done as soon as possible. I'd like to be able to execute everything by the middle of next year. That's my goal. So if DCNR comes through, yeah, my goal would be to do the title. The next steps would be do the title work. The other thing I will prepare and have soon for review would be, so that's something you can consider. I don't have it yet, but the working forest conservation easement based on Capital Region Water also joined our program. The Harrisburg Water Supply, they're 8,200 acres at the DeHart Reservoir. So I was going to use that as the base because I went through a lot of work with them and their attorneys on that and get it to you for review. And I'll be, as Frank, your great question, I'll make sure I'll put a fine comb on being explicit around the easement not being prescriptive around getting out, and in year 5, you're gonna have to do 10 things and it's gonna cost the borough X. I'll be very clear in highlighting those areas that.
I don't want any costs coming back to the borough for treatments of the mountain, basically.
It's gonna,
That's it.
What the whole program, this whole process, you have a great asset is meant to, instead of be a liability, joining our program is meant to be an asset. It's meant to be a positive. So I hear you loud and clear.
And I don't disagree with that, Frank. I do think there will be money that we have to spend to do certain things. Some money that we probably,
Roads,
we should have spent some money
I was gonna say,
to.
regardless of whether they're here or not.
Yeah,
we have
there's
money to
things
spend out there.
We
Right,
should have
that's
probably,
what-
we should have, well, we
Fences
couldn't
around
have done it,
wells,
but we should have done some stuff already, so there will be money. I agree, I don't wanna have you in 5 years come and say, hey, we need to do this and it's gonna cost $100,000. I'm looking, and I think Frank's kind of the same, like if there's things we're gonna have to do that are a couple thousand here that we might have to do, but
Right.
yeah, I agree with that.
Any further discussion? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Solicitor, do you have, Chris, you have the document?
I have it, I'll get it to Bill. We're meeting next week about a bunch of this.
Good. Thank you, guys.
All right.
We move on to number 8 on the agenda, appointments, resignations, correspondence, proposals, and citizen action items.
Thank you.
There are 2 agenda items, Justin Russell fundraiser. I think everyone has a copy of the parade or special events permit application. Any wish for action or questions on the application? This is for an event requiring the closure of Market Street from 1 p.m. until 7 p.m. on $7/22. That's this Saturday.
Bill, does that group have to provide the liability for the closure of the street? We turned others down because they could not provide the liability insurance to do that.
There is an exposure to the borough when we monkey with the streets. And it is always a good idea to try to lay that liability off onto the requestor. Now, it is the case that we make exceptions sometimes.
I got you. I don't have a problem with the program. I just want to be upfront because
Yeah.
we have denied others.
It would be my recommendation, again, being the lawyer worried about liability issues, that we should protect ourselves by being insured, and that should be done by the requestor having insurance and naming us as an additional insured.
When did we receive this application, Chris?
Last week, late last week, I forget the exact date, but I remember when he came in, when I talked to him, I said, well, your timing's good because we have the council meeting next week, so get the application in. He doesn't have it dated.
So if traffic's only gonna be affected for 15 minutes, why are we closing it for 6 hours?
Apparently, after the poker run, they're planning to have like a car show type thing. And they're anticipating that it would be more vehicles than they can fit into the parking lot there.
At the old sidewalks?
Yes.
I would, because of timing, I would offer that we perhaps should entertain it, but communicate very clearly to Mr. Vegas and anyone else that, in the future, if they're going to request something, we'd like to see these, I think, 60 days out, whenever the event is initially planned, and there in the future will be an insurance requirement.
I got the impression that this came together kind of quickly.
That's my guess.
I don't know that for sure.
I'm not familiar with.
I mean, it definitely came, I'm looking at what it's for, and it definitely came together quickly.
And the pastor from the church next door is involved.
Oh, okay.
The pastor from the church next door is involved. They're going to be doing, I guess, food and stuff there.
I move we approve the permit application.
Do we want to ask for the liability insurance, or do we not want to ask?
You won't, yeah, they won't get it sorted out.
I think we could pose the question, let them know.
I would let them
We
know,
are looking
yes.
for it, and also communicate, and I'll make that part of the motion, that we communicate that in the future, if they look to do something as an annual event, we'd like to know 60 days out, and there will be an insurance.
Well, this could be, going forward too, it could be as simple as communicating with the Sled Works because they have a lot of events there. And really, if we're going to continue then, and they're, because we shut off the street for other things there, it would probably be easier for them to just, it doesn't cost anything for them to put us on as an additional insured on there and get us a certificate, so it
But
might
that
be.
was a bone of contention in the past with the old
Yes,
Sled Works.
yes.
That's where the
Okay.
issue
They-
came up,
They
so.
will not,
They
they
don't
will
want-
not do the liability.
Well, and that's a
So,
different
but
story.
I agree with you, Craig, it's fine this time.
And
You know, we just have to
I
wait
certainly
for it or
understand
something.
the
Right,
extenuating
right,
circumstances.
right.
The timing, I didn't see the name, or I didn't put together the name and
Right.
and where that is.
It's hard to read, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's on the agenda, but I read right through it twice. Any further discussion? We have a motion with a second. Motion I've made by, second by Mr. Crawford to approve the special events permit for Saturday. All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 under item 8 is the PSABA action alert referencing the UCC third-party agencies. I did receive this as an email. Chris has a copy of the details regarding House Bill 1469. Is there any wish at the table for action?
I read what they had, I want to know the pros and cons of this. Evidently, PSAB wants the local, or the boroughs want to have who they want to come in and do the inspections, and you're saying to the individual, you can't go out and get your own inspector.
That's how it is presently. This bill would, my understanding is correct, this bill would allow outside inspectors, people to retain their own inspector for that purpose. They'd have to be licensed and certified and insured, I would assume.
So if
They
all inspectors are licensed and certified, but one charges a little less than somebody else, and say, well, I want to hire that person, evidently somebody's trying to say, well, we want to control everything here. I'm open to a discussion on this, but I want to know more about it.
Yeah, the way I took this kind of was that we have our own inspector, correct?
Correct.
That's who everybody has to use. This gives the person the option to have their own. So I get why boroughs would be against that. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, but I get why you would, because you don't know that person, you don't know how they think, all the factors that you can come into making that decision.
I would compare it to Frank's analogy. Right now, we don't give our residents choice on refuse or electric. So I would think that's very similar. I, for one, am in support of the bill. I don't wish to oppose it. If anyone wants to make a motion to do so, you're welcome to.
The concern that has been raised by the Boroughs Association and just in terms of giving the pros and cons, I don't have a position on it or anything, but is that their concern is that people would then be able to shop around, contractors would shop around for a more favorable inspector, and, you know, be able to, it's kind of like choosing your own police officers to investigate, you know, your offense or something like that. You used to be able to. So that is their concern with it. I think the one thing that, you know, is important to keep in mind too is that the borough, you know, we do not have any administrative fees or anything like that. So we do not, it's not a matter of affecting us revenue-wise in any way, shape, or form. Our residents pay BIU what BIU's charge is, and it's paid directly. All we do is collect the check and hand it off to BIU, but a lot of municipalities have additional fees because of them having to process everything. We don't do that.
Is there any wish for action on the correspondence received from the Boroughs Association?
I'd like to make a motion that Council of Borough of Duncannon contacts our representative in support of House Bill 1469. Direct, I suppose the borough manager would be most appropriate to send that.
I'll second that.
So we're going out in favor of, not opposition of.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, the
Thank
motion
you.
passes.
If the motion passes, yeah.
We have a motion.
Well,
Motion
I
by
have
Mr.
a,
Crawthorne, will second by me.
my concern with that is if we've been talking a lot about, especially in revitalization, getting into trying to come up with a way to enforce something, and
Well, this would be building codes. This would not be property maintenance code, which is a different animal. This is strictly inspection of construction work under the UCC. And as Mr. Epley pointed out, you can use, by law, I mean, any licensed, a borough can choose any person who's a UCC certified. They have jurisdiction anywhere in the state that they're called into. You know, I had a situation in Middletown where our codes official was out of town on vacation. We had a property that collapsed. We borrowed High Spire's codes officer and appointed him on a temporary basis because he was certified and could do that. So,
Jeff, I'll counter your comment with, you know, I think right now we've got a obvious, you know, blight issue in the borough. And by someone who may want to do some work, having some options to do the inspection, if they can save a couple dollars somewhere by going with another
And
inspection, it may prompt them to put more money in the project or to actually get the project done.
but it also may prompt them to go find somebody who's less reputable and will say, and that's my concern.
Well, I guess that was what I was gonna ask, are there standards?
Well, the state has a certification process for it, at least the way it says here. I don't know what that certification process entails, but I suspect that if they have a certification process for it, then the state controls that.
And is there an additional certification for the floodplain stuff?
no, that's not
That's
a
separate
building
from
code,
this.
that's not UCC. I would point out too, if you look,
They're two different processes.
Okay.
They need the floodplain management permit, which is administered by Mr. Corrigan through our floodplain management ordinance, and then when they get that, then they can go for the building permit.
The one thing too that I noticed that might be something to look at too is that they mentioned there's two different amendments. The one is the one that would allow anybody to use anybody. The other is where the municipality would be able to have at least two and has a cap on how long you could do it, which kind of sounds to me like it's an attempt at a compromise between a free-for-all and a monopoly. And so that,
Yeah, I would be in support of having, you know, a couple, and maybe even it's more than 2 or 3. I'd be fine if we had 15, as long as we were comfortable with all 15. Mine comes from when you go out and try and find the cheapest, you're gonna get what you pay for a lot of times, and I don't want a building inspector coming in, it's just gonna rubber stamp it. I want them to actually inspect the building and tell us it's gonna.
I don't think it's
fine
as
with
big a
that.
problem for a community like Duncannon. We're built out, we don't have a whole lot of construction. I think where it becomes a problem at the state level is when you have big contractors who then they're, you know, that they have the money to maybe influence and, you know, create a situation where somebody maybe is going to be more lenient because they're gonna get a lot of work from that particular contractor, I don't know that that would really logically impact us much.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of the AO 1998, but I don't know that I'm good with Free Willy.
Any further discussion?
Does this include electrical inspection?
Electrical.
All UCC inspections, yes.
We have a motion with a second to.
And the motion's for the 1999, not 1998.
To support House Bill 1469.
Well, there's two different,
That's the amendments.
There's two different amendments
Okay.
that are already on the floor.
So we would be voting to support the whole thing, both amendments.
It would be nice if they'd have provided us with details on the rest of the bill, not just on those two amendments. Because they're asking you to support or to oppose a bill as opposed to just to oppose those amendments, so. I mean, they say they're opposed to those amendments, but they're, asking for, I guess the action they're asking for is to oppose all amendments, not the bill itself.
We actually have to take a vote on this at all.
There's a
We do not.
motion on the floor.
We've got a motion with a second, but we don't have to do that.
That's why I'd just like to know if we must vote on it.
No, sir. We motion with a second to address our legislators, empower the manager to address our legislators to support House Bill 1469. Motion by Mr. Crofton, one item in the second. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, let's do a roll call, please.
Mr. Crothermel,
Yes.
Mr. Epley,
I'm going to abstain because we shouldn't be voting on it. I don't know if I can do that, but that's my opinion.
Is that a valid abstention?
Absolutely. Can't make him vote.
Fair enough.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mr. Kirkhoff,
no.
Ms. Young,
No.
Mr. Nace.
Yes.
Yes.
So the abstention makes it a tie. And the manager, or the mayor, is put in a tie. Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else? We still have vacancies on the sewer authority, and I believe is it the zoning hearing board or the planning commission, Chris? There's a vacancy.
I think both.
Both. Okay. We still got vacancies, so we're still looking for
I thought
people.
the zoning was filled.
I think there was two and we only got one, isn't there?
I'd have to double check on
There's
it.
two on it right now, and possibly it's the third one. Did he resign?
To be honest with you, we have so little interaction
Okay.
with it, I don't know, I'd have
I
to check.
know, it's once in 20 years.
Yeah, I've not yet, we had one time we tried to get the planning commission together and couldn't contact anybody, but zoning hearing, we haven't had any,
Okay.
anything to say to
Curious
them.
if the other gentleman resigned from that. Told me he wasn't, but maybe he did.
I don't recall seeing that. I won't say it didn't happen, but I don't
Okay,
recall
I
seeing
know,
that.
I know. Thank you.
Vacancies?
We have a vacancy on the sewer authority, and we believe both the zoning hearing board and the planning commission.
Thanks.
And they've been long, well, the sewer authority's been a few months, but the planning commission and the zoning hearing board are rarely engaged.
Right.
The planning commission, for instance, we attempted to have them come together for a review of a plan, and after numerous attempts, couldn't even get them together to review a plan, so it's a grown-out community. Anything else under item 8 on the agenda?
I did accept an appointment to the PSAB on the Strategic Action Plan Committee.
Congratulations. I did have one other item. I think everyone should have received this at home. It's the PSAB Fall Leadership Conference. It's in the Poconos in October. If anyone didn't receive it, would like to see it, you can have my copy. I will not be able to attend. But there's some information that may be valuable. I'm not sure it all applies to us or is all valuable to the borough, but there may be some sessions that are. If anyone would like my copy, you're welcome to.
There's a good picture in it too.
I was gonna say, since my picture's in there, if anybody wants my signature, it might be worth money someday.
Christie's picture with a mouth.
Imagine that, Christie called me.
Anything else under appointments, resignations, correspondence, proposals, and citizen action? Move on to item number 9, general report, starting with the borough engineer, Mr. Rogowski.
Mr. President, you have my written report, hitting the highlights. The consent order for the sewer treatment plant was executed by DEP. We did receive it June 27th, so essentially the clock has started to tick as of June 27th. We are well ahead of the curve, which is good with respect to meeting the goals that are prescribed in that particular document. Our next essentially goal is by the end of September, we have to have a permit submission to DEP for the screw press replacement. So once again, we've worked through that. We're in really good shape with respect to that. So I don't see any issues meeting those benchmarks that have been set forth. Influent pump replacement, as you recall, we had a pump, we replaced it. We had to flip-flop it because a different one broke in the process. That's later on the agenda this evening to approve the second replacement pump, which is actually for pump number 1. And we did actually get a little better price than the last time, so that was good.
It's not much later, Greg, it's right under you.
Well, there we go. We continue to work through lead and copper issues. The good news is that the first round of tap sampling that was due to be done in June came back with good results. If indeed, tomorrow or Thursday this week, we expect to get the second round of results. All things are pointing in the correct direction with respect to us potentially having to essentially be able to opt out of that replacement program. So we are kind of traveling parallel paths at the moment, preparing for both scenarios, but we will know very, very soon here what we need to do with respect to that.
Please let us know as soon as you do.
We will. We have a meeting Monday scheduled, tentatively scheduled at this point to review everything and stuff like that, so it should be soon. And really the last big issue, the Community Development Block Grant Award, we did issue the notice of award to the contractor for the Chestnut Street project. Those contracts are being assembled, insurance, et cetera, so that is going to be moving forward here very soon. Probably, I'm guessing, we'll at least issue notice to proceed at the beginning of August, but I suspect we won't actually have a shovel in the ground until September. We are also proceeding with the permitting related to the mountain work, booster station work up there, and go from there. So things seem to all be moving in the correct direction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
That's it.
Anything for Mr. Rogowski? Greg, I do have a copy that I believe was copied to, or a letter that was copied to you. I just found it tonight in my box, dated July 5th.
Already have it.
It was asking from DEP, it was asking for a response within 10 days.
Yes, we're aware of it.
Was that response made?
No, but we made Christine aware that it was coming. It was going to be issued tomorrow, so.
Was she in a good mood?
She was at that particular time, but the next day she wasn't, so.
Did she say yes?
I don't even know anymore. It just comes and goes, so.
I've never met her, but I've read her emails.
We are indeed addressing that particular document.
I just want to make sure that I assumed you had it, I assumed you were on top of it, but I.
Post-haste, we didn't even get it until the 10th anyway, so it was one of those other issues.
I would say that 10 days can be.
Does anyone want to see that? I was going to do it under correspondence, but I knew it was directly for Greg. I was asking for some clarification. The one that glared at me was, there are 3 items of clarifications requesting. The first is, the last inspection of sanitary sewer performed by the department shows 1,450 total connections. The June 26th letter reports 706.
We had a massive fire in town and 700 of our units burned down. No, I think what happened is during their inspection, they took the population, that's close to the population. It's got to be what they did.
Okay.
We talked about that today. The population, we think of the system's closer to 2,000
Right.
between the two municipalities. But the 706 is what we bill, so that's the
The
number.
706 made sense, 706 made sense, but 1450, I had no idea where that came from.
So, yeah.
Could that's even more than if you included the township for sewer connections.
Yeah.
Population, though.
Because I thought, that's what I thought maybe she was going from, because it said sanitary, but, yeah, population, it does.
So we've addressed that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything for the engineering firm?
Is he doing the bid?
What's that? Oh, yes.
Yeah, so there's correspondence, I believe, in your packet. The Durstein Company out of Souderton, Pennsylvania was the lowest qualified bidder in the amount of $19,800 for the influent pump replacement. We would make a recommendation that that contract be awarded to that particular firm and documents executed and issued notice to proceed.
So moved.
I'll second. Ms. Young has made a second, or a motion, I've made the second to award the bid to Durstein Company LLC, 320 Cowpath Road, Soudertown, Pennsylvania, for the replacement of the influence pump.
Who did the last one? Which company?
Blooming Glen. They were like $400 short this time. Yeah, 467. They were the second bidder.
Any further discussion?
And that's actually just for the public, because it's in my report, I'm looking for the exact number. I thought I had the exact number, but that came out to be, about $1,500 less than the one that we did previously. So one of those rare instances of prices going down, folks. Some good news.
We have a motion with a second, motion by Ms. Young, I've made the second, any further discussion? All those in favor give consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are you in need of anything else from us, Mr. Johnson?
Not at this point. I would just prep council, I think, at the next, in the August, maybe in August. In the August meeting, I think we will be coming forward with a recommendation to start the process of getting the screw press package out to bid. That would just be the equipment package, because there are long lead items, so that we don't get stuck with respect to the consent order. But it wouldn't be the installation of it, it would just be the...
And everybody did take note on the Panoni report that the top three items, the permit submission, the control panel UPS installation, and the evaluation of the chemical feed options all due by September 23rd, which is immediately after the September meeting, this Saturday. Very good. Obviously, we'll have some discussion a little bit later on the financial portion of that. That's been a serious thought process for us. Thank you, Red. Move on to the Public Works Operator, Mr. Mix, or Mr. Hope, sorry.
I intend to have water and wastewater in all your packets. I will start with the water first, and I'd like to point out the average gallons a day for June, we are down from 133, if everybody remembers, recalls, prior to the reservoir being taken out of service, repaired, and brought back online, we're at 122, so about 11,000.
Part of that may be attributed to, we had a voluntary water conservation period in June.
Well, but yeah, I mean, we did that, but if you also look across and you read the water losses at 25%, we did not get the reservoir online to around the 12th, so we spent 2 weeks of just filling the reservoir.
That was going to be my question. Okay.
Not allowing it coming to town. So that should balance out here, and it is looking that way as I'm looking at this month's numbers. And we are still down on the average so far, we're down to 120. So we are in much better shape that way.
We'll also note there are only 6 items under the open projects. I think that's a reduction as well.
Yeah, so we are moving along nicely. Greg did touch base, the lead and copper exceedance. We have notified the residents last week or 2 weeks ago what the results from the first round were. At that time, we also gave them a bottle with instructions to sample for the second round, which got picked up, and we expect results the end of this week. So till Monday, we're hoping to have those numbers. We're going to get together, and if everything's clear, we think, and this is just our thinking, that we can submit those, do the same thing, release the results, notify DEP, and we think we should be good to go for 3 years and then back on routine.
If that's the case, as long as it's not a gratuity, I'll buy you a drink.
But that is our goal, and we don't have any reason right now to think that we're going to have outstanding numbers. We, the 2 residents, just so it's public knowledge, that had the high levels. Upon inspection, there were filters in place. So whether those filters weren't changed, they back flushed, or whatever, and according to DEP, if you find during an investigation that filters are in place, that is to be from a sample site unless there are no other options. So, did we have bad samples? No, but we are no longer sampling those two houses, so. And we did sample them after we got the initial negative number, and they were okay.
Right.
So that's telling me the filters weren't cleaned, it was an oversight, we sampled, oh my goodness, so then the next time we did
And
normal
there's no
maintenance.
direction or option to sample prior to the filter.
Yeah. So that's just a little bit of information in the direction that we're going. I think we're going well there.
So
Um,
let me back up just a moment and make sure I understand this. DEP is telling us that if we find that there's a filter in place, not to use that, but yet at the same time, we're being penalized for using that.
Because we sampled.
So it doesn't matter that that's not one they want us to use.
It also doesn't matter that their spokesperson told the media that those were outlier numbers. That, I was told by, I talked to a friend of mine that worked in the Attorney General's office. He spoke to somebody in the Environmental Crimes Unit, and they came back, they told him that the numbers were so high that it had to have been spiked or something, that it was just astronomical, beyond what you would see even where test site.
Our story hasn't changed.
No, but unfortunately, in DEP's defense, it flows downhill just like with the sewer plant. They're getting it from EPA because of all the concern because of Flint. It's made the lead thing, a very, very big hot button issue. But nonetheless, we have all the other things that we could be spending that money on to improve our water system. And we're spending it going back, doing all this. So hopefully this second round of tests is like the first round, and hopefully DEP reads their own rules because we get varying interpretations, but.
Were you aware of that rule about the filters prior to sampling and just didn't know they had a filter?
Yeah, we were unaware of the filters there. I knew that,
The rule.
I mean, it's written, that you're to avoid whatever. We distributed more than what we needed for the
Right.
bottles. And we needed, at that time, I think we needed 10, and that's what we got back. So it's not like I had 15 bottles and I don't need these 5 and opted for some other ones. That we needed 10 samples, we got 10 bottles, that's what was submitted.
But in the future, there could be some,
Like it's a question, do you have a filter on your system, and then we
Correct.
know not
and
to
that
use
should be
them.
a
Yeah.
standard practice
And
that
that's-
would avoid
yeah.
all of this.
Yeah.
And
The
what
good
happened?
The good part is that through this process, that sampling plan's been refined, and, we kind of brought it up to current standards, current speed. I think that is the one good thing, and
Right.
now have a good list.
So the people that had that high level, do they need to be warned? Like, is that really high level lead in their water system because of their filter? Or it's just anomaly because of the system, or?
To be safe, it's not because of the system. To
I
be
mean,
safe,
their
we
system,
tested
their
it
filter.
again. Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's just like anybody else. You can't tell people to do it in their own house, but clearly, there could be an issue, even at a different location, that they have, say, lead piping inside. Well, that's not our problem as a borough, but it becomes our problem because we're the public water supplier. The burden is for us to prove it's not our issue. And, with this lead replacement, we could even go so far to rule out that all of our system is clean. And if we were forced to do the lead replacement, you have to go to the property owner and say, hey, you have to sign off that that your piece of this puzzle is lead, and they can do that. So somebody could choose to keep that
And
in place.
Kevin, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that after we had those very high results, when we retested there, Kevin actually went and drew the sample instead of just having the property owner draw the sample, just to make sure that everything was being drawn properly. And I guess that's how you discovered the filter then.
Mhm.
So.
Very good. Anything else?
No, water, there's some things still that we're gonna keep plugging away at. The wastewater, I have, the DMR were okay again. Phosphorus level were in compliance. We have, I wanna say 150 some pounds to meet the yearly so that we don't have to purchase any credits. So we're down to 150. So in the next 3 months, if I did the numbers today, I think we need like 120 pounds per month, and we'll be out of that, and that'll be a first time in a long time that we didn't even have to purchase phosphorus credits. So we're close.
Plant's humming, it's humming good. So,
Yeah.
so far so good.
Knock on something.
Another influent pump.
You can see that we did get a couple more items completed. In the event that anybody's heard rumor that the press was running, I'm not going to deny it. It was I want to say, plan to fill a dumpster, because when the screw press was in, they used the dumpster, and it wasn't half full. And I really hated to pay to have a half empty, half full dumpster hauled out. So we tinkered with the press to get it filled up so that it would be a full. It's still not full because the press runs like it always did. It's good for a few hours and then it does. So we're trying to fill the remainder of that dumpster down there utilizing the screw press. It is not the answer that we're away from the hauling, so we still do need to pursue the. So I just wanted to make that clear. If anybody heard rumors or saw, or it still limps along. It does turn on, but it is still problematic. So I don't want any false reads taken from that. So smoke testing, we're looking August, hoping that things dry up enough that when we put the smoke in the manholes, it's going to flow through the system. With the storms that we've been having, we're not in conditions to be doing that in the next week or so from what I'm at. River stage is up and down and up and down. So the waste check line valve, I can tell you, with Roger's helping the guys from Penn Township, we did get that part, the flap itself. We got that rebuilt. We installed it yesterday. It fits. It's online, so time will tell if it's actually sealing and doing its thing. So till next month, that valve, we're going to have a better answer on that. But that part, we did get that reinstalled today. And we probably till next month will have an answer on one of the pressure reducing valves. We're going to take out the leaking part and we're just going to straight pipe it and see if that helps any of our pressure issues throughout the plant. And I'm going to also make note that the mechanical bar screen, that's going to be put under the new planned upgrade. So instead of borough action needed, that's just going to be when we get into the next phase of plant upgrades, that's going to be included there. I don't know that we need to take any action or purchase anything now. It's working. It's something that we know is obsolete. So that status is probably just going to be noted as planned upgrade.
Anything else?
No, do we have questions?
Any questions for the operator?
I have a question, it's more for Greg though, than you. Greg, the sewer line is being televised for the stone mill.
Yeah, it turned out it was actually in pretty good shape, surprisingly enough.
Was it in bad enough shape that they need to replace it?
That's where it's going to get a little interesting. My honest answer is probably not.
What kind of pipe was it?
So there was some terracotta, there was some cast iron. So, weird. But,
Wouldn't that be enough though, that it's terracotta to?
I think it's probably enough to leverage a contribution out of them. And I think that's probably more the likely direction we'll go, and we're going to talk about that in the authority. But I don't think it's. I think we'd have a hard time justifying wholesale replacement.
When was that done?
We didn't do it.
Yeah, they did it. It was
Oh,
like
the
4 weeks ago.
developer did it.
Something like that.
That's all still in the works.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to them. There's a whole process they're gonna have to go through to get, the agreements rewritten and some other things like that because it is gonna tilt our capacity agreement with Penn pretty significantly, so.
Is that the development up off of 849,
Behind
like
the-
sunshine
Yeah, it's been
houses.
around apparently for a
Okay.
decade, I think.
They changed, they came, was that last month that they came to the meeting? Or was it one of the past two meetings they came, I think it was last month. And they showed us the plans that they are working on now, and there's 110 houses now they're up to?
70-something.
Yeah, it went up,
Yeah.
it went up, because that was a separate discussion about whether that was feasible, but, yeah, so they're still working on it, and
So they got prior approval to do the televising, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because I know that was a problem in the past, so, okay.
yeah, they only needed to televise a
It was like
small
three
section.
runs, yeah, it was
Yeah.
from 3Bs up to the.
Yeah, it was 3B
Butcher
up
Shop.
to Butcher Shop Road. That was all they televised, that straight section there, so.
Anything else for the operator? Thank you, Kevin. Move then to the borough solicitor. Mr. Disick.
I have nothing I want to talk about tonight.
No update on the cable franchise agreement?
No, we're just being truculent.
Good word.
Yeah.
My term, my elected term is up the end of this year. And one of my go-get-em issues for a lot of years has been the escrow check from back when we had Reader and Adler, which I know you had been working on, and we talked about as cheated and whatever. I don't know that that'll be rectified by December, but I'd love if it was.
We'll give it a shot.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else for the solicitor? Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Next, we have fire protection. I think the chief is here.
Yep.
Mr. Warner.
We've had all three of the apparatus, the main pumping apparatus have been maintained, and two of the three have been pump tested, passing. The third is awaiting its test date due to conflicts and testing site malfunction. A conversation in the Penn Township Fire Tax meetings has been the archways with the dry hydrant / options, what do you want to call it, liability, who owns what, if there's permission to do it now. Has there been any, the last thing I heard was that it was, you can do whatever you want there now.
I don't.
Where did you hear that?
That Norfolk Southern has basically given the local authority the option to maintain under, around.
When did they give that and to whom?
I have no idea. That's just what was, when it was discussed.
Because Mr. Landis was down to talk to me, and I told
Okay.
him we would look into it, and we're trying to find somebody at Norfolk Southern that will cooperate with us and give us those answers. And we've not had any luck at all.
Personally, I know I have, and Chris have both tried to call and find
You're not
somebody.
gonna get a straight answer.
Everyone we call says either call somebody else
Yep.
or,
The borough spent money, I don't know the number, but spent money with the former solicitor to research that several years ago, more so for the recreation
And
purpose.
you never get an answer.
And, even after spending money with the solicitor, there was no clear answer that was received.
And from what the easier to beg for forgiveness and ask for permission aspect may apply. But what we have been discussing, we've had, that dry hydrant issue has been around for years. Obviously, we used some of the piping that was here for those dry hydrants that never got put in, was used in Noy Park. One of the options I think we have is to put pipe in, exposed, unexposed, very not anchored to the walls, basically put in from the borough side, run through their right-of-way, and terminated with the connection that we can put a hose on, throw it in, one or two hoses on, throw it in the river. In lieu of burying the pipe down, running the level out to the water level where it's, exposed but under the water, etc. That was something that we had, they did in Wheatfield Township at the Sulphur Springs Bridge because of varying water levels and things of that nature. Maybe that's something that could be explored, because if they would say, hey, you can't do this, then all you gotta do is take the pipe out. You know, there's nothing that, there would be nothing besides some concrete or something on the borough side where the pipe sticks out of the ground, the main connection, and then would go into the archway and just be basically a pipe that would go down to where it can be anchored into the ground and along the river where we could hook onto it. That's a thought, and if we could do that at a couple archways, mainly Ann Street and then maybe Broadway, because we can get a rig under the underpass at Crumley Brothers. And then we have the campground, well, or Cherry Street would be another good one too, because that is completely inaccessible.
Right.
As long as we have a pathway to walk into there and get to the river, that might be a challenge. That would be maybe Cherry and Ann Street would be the two to target. And Ann Street would definitely be the higher priority, I would believe, just because of the vicinity of the higher, yeah, higher risk areas.
Bill, do you have any comment on such idea?
You shouldn't do that.
Come on,
I mean, if the
Bill.
fire company wants to, go ahead and do it, well, we can't give them permission, we can't do it. I mean, this is a railroad, it's governed by feds, it's, I know it's a good idea, okay? I understand that.
Did you check out the manhole down in the municipal parking lot that leads to the river?
No.
You can draft water out of it. Why don't you go down and check that out? That pipe's already laid to the river. That's been there for years. It's about the center of the parking lot, railroad bank side. Kevin knows where it is. Check that out. See if there's something we can do there for you.
Well,
Maybe we can put a lift up on the top.
Even if, what is the lift there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an old manhole.
Basically
It's
just
one we
remove the
pumped
manhole.
water out of before.
Well, I will say that when they do our pump tests at Hack, they have a manhole, and they pull the manhole cover off, and then that's how they put the hard sleeve down in and draft it out of there. So as long as the water level would be
Yeah, I don't know
within
where that's at. I don't know.
10 feet, theoretically, it should be positive, you should be able to do it.
Check it out. That's where they
I
pulled
could
the water
get-
out
I'd
when
get
they
with
were
them
testing the
someday.
filtration plant.
If I see you someday, I'll flag you down if you have time or something, get out there and pull that off and take a look at it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Field trip.
Ryan, is the idea to have one that would operate like a hydrant? You'd hook up a pumper, or is it to
Yeah,
fill the tanker?
you would draft. What it would do, it just takes away that distance. The draft height is what you try and, 15 feet maximum height is what you're drafting from. If we have just say a connection like in Noy Park, right at the end of the street on Ann Street, right prior to the archway, and then the pipe goes from that connection out to the point somewhere on the riverbank in the vicinity of the river, that we can take our hard sleeve, or one or two of them, which are only 10 foot long, and put the strainer on it and throw it out in the river. We can accomplish that draft, but for us to do it at Ann Street, you would have to connect about 10-foot hoses.
But
Which
is
you
the
would probably
purpose
never
to,
pull it because you would suck air from somewhere. But if you would accomplish that, if you would take up that distance from the railroad to the river, essentially, and hook on with the fire truck on the street, and put a hose or two with the strainer on and throw it out in the river, you would take away all that distance.
but this would be to pump directly then into hoses, not to fill the tanker and then...
Whatever.
They'd fill all
You know,
the tankers.
anyway,
Well,
Tanker
yeah.
fill
No, the reason I
everything.
ask, because if it's just for filling the tanker, there might be more options that we could look at.
Well, we have Noy Park, this is obviously for
You want
That
a
vicinity.
large volume of water supply when the hotel goes rolling.
anything.
Hey.
No, that's what I mean. In the square
When you
area,
need large-
that needs a
When
larger
you need
volume
large
of water than
volumes
what
of
we can
water-
provide in a hydrant system.
We have basically one or 2 points right now in that area down there, one being the hydrant at off the standpipe, which you have limited supply. So, or drafting out of the creek there, which is obviously seasonal dependent. You have Noy Park, and when we used that hydrant, or we used that for tubbies, there was a couple issues there with just with the depth of the water, more than likely. A couple weeks ago, we wouldn't have had any problems, because there was water. And maybe that turtle that lives in that hole down there might have a little something to do with it.
I didn't know, because I was wondering if something on Sherman's Creek might.
But that's down, I mean, you're talking about a distance to Sherman's Creek.
Yeah, not for running the hose, obviously, I
Right.
just thought if it was for filling tankers, that's why.
So we're just looking at, where you have your major areas of
Right.
risk, that we would need larger volumes of water. And to accomplish that, you'd need several different sites, not just one. So we could accomplish that if we had
Greg, will
one
any
or
of
two to
this,
choose from.
these issues with our hydrants and our supply of water with the projects that we have coming up, is it?
Yeah, just hold on 1 minute. Okay, so, Byron, what you may not be aware, we're gonna run 12-inch down from the standpipe all the way down to High Street. So hopefully, well, not hopefully, all those hydrants are being reconnected to that, directed to the 12-inch. So you will have a fairly good spine now, to be able to go out. Still doesn't address some of the bigger issues, but that will be yet another piece of the puzzle. As you get further on the north end, that's going to be less attractive just because of the distance. But yeah, it's going to make it better. So, but it's specific to those. I think there's three hydrants. That's it.
Where's that on Chestnut Street coming down?
On Chestnut, they're actually on the sides. Yeah. So.
Is there one at High Street? Chestnut High? And Market? Is there one at Market in Chestnut?
No, but the way it's configured, it actually tees there, so it doesn't go all the way down to Market. So,
Okay.
So you'd have to be up on high.
Yeah, you'd be a good one.
There's a hydrant on my corner that I'm assuming is one of the ones that will be connected to it.
We're using your pool too.
But that's still gonna be,
And the limiting factor is the standpipe, and that's 80 minutes and 4,000 gallons. So you're dumping a lot of water for a long period of time if that's going down. And that's going to impact
what is
the
the
domestic
capacity of
system.
that?
The standpipe's 320,000 gallons.
Okay. Yeah, well, just to put it in perspective, we used probably about, that night at the last arson fire at the Ying's property you were just talking about where the development's going in, we probably floated about 125 to 150,000 gallons of water on that.
And, maybe I'm wrong, but wouldn't we want to use, if possible, water from the river rather than treated water?
Absolutely.
So it'd be nice to, if we could, figure out a way to.
And then you don't impact the system.
But now,
'cause you've got
on the same
cloud water.
token, with that, the hydrants obviously would be the number one priority.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're gonna have the fastest ability to get water
I
out
was
of
thinking
them. and
it'd be more that you'd want to have multiple connection points too, so that you might have 3 or 4 companies here for a bigger fire, I don't know. And they'd all be.
Yeah, you'd have multiple points.
Right.
That was just a suggestion. That was one of the discussions that come up in the Penn Township meeting, was about those draft points. Because there was one brought up previously about ox on Sherman's Creek that got stalled out, that we reinvigorated talks about, so.
I would venture a guess if a pipe of some sort ended up in any of the railroad underpasses, that it's railroad property, the borough's not gonna be upset about it.
But for the railroad to do it, I don't think they're gonna.
I'm not saying the railroad would do it.
I know, I get what you're saying. That was my easy to beg for forgiveness. I really don't know.
I've heard enough.
You know how, when these
Have a right
discussions
to
took
remain
place,
silent.
Roger remembers this vividly, when we first started the talks, how many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, about these dry hydrants. And Norfolk Southern kind of threw a fit about it, and they argued. Haven't
But then
heard
at least we
anything
have
from
somebody
them
to
At least
since.
there was some response.
I was gonna say, at least we had somebody to talk to, get that
Yeah,
guy.
but really, you haven't really heard anything from anybody since. I mean, I never see anybody down here chasing people around, never hear the stories. Years ago, they were kicking people out of there from having their boats in the water.
My brother's the Norfolk
Yeah.
Southern policeman.
Good. What's his phone number?
Isn't he
I
retired?
can give it to you.
Isn't he retired?
No, my dad actually retired and my brother took his spot.
Oh, I thought I just did a retirement breakfast with Randy at Marysville Diner.
Bet you if he writes a story about it, Norfolk Southern, contact us.
So maybe.
No.
Chief, what I will tell you is that based on what the solicitor said, the borough has no jurisdiction over those. And we're not gonna,
You don't have any jurisdiction,
so,
but
you know, if somebody's doing something down there, as long as it's not breaking a law that the state police would enforce, we don't have any codes to deal with anything down there, it's none of our business.
Anything else, Mr. Warner?
yes, do you have, we received our first payment, I guess, Ethan said he was positive, of $6,250 in fire tax. Is there any type of balance on how much has been collected so far? I know with the Penn Township fire tax meetings, they furnish us every meeting with a statement that they've received. Is there any update on how much was received of the expected amount?
Your counterpart already picked up the second quarter. That was authorized at the last monthly
Did
meeting.
they get it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Was there, is there any statement on how much money has been collected and how much is expected? Because the majority of it should, I would assume, should be in by now.
Well, council has approved a quarterly distribution. We can
No,
provide
I'm asking
that.
if-
That's in the public.
I'm asking for a statement on how much has been collected. Is there any such statement?
Yes,
And what
there is.
would the balance be of what was collected?
I can provide, I'll provide that to
To
you.
the fire tax?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
It's information that's provided to council too.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Anything from the table for the fire chief? Thank you, Brian. Byron?
You're welcome.
Byron?
I got a question.
Yep.
Since you spoke of the last fire, and I don't get anything from Keene or Criley, if you guys have a fire and you hit the hydrants, do you put that on a report and it goes to Chris? Do you have anything that it goes to, Chris?
We haven't had anything.
We have, but if you would,
Yeah.
would you report that?
Yep, we do that actually with Suez for the industrial park. They have a form for emergency and non-emergency. I have it on the computer at the firehouse. Anytime we use those hydrants, we fill it out and give it to them.
But it
The
goes,
amount?
it comes down here to Chris, because what I'm looking at is unaccounted for water. That would figure into.
Yeah, that's exactly why they want, they encourage us to use the
Yeah.
system, let it be used, but they just want to know where the water's going.
Okay.
Chief, Suez's form would suit us fine, you can cross out Suez and put borough if you want to, but whatever format they give, if you already have it on your computer,
If you
that
make
would be
one up,
great.
just get it to me and I'll, save it on the computer for borough hydrant use and
I never thought of it till you said it, and I thought, I don't do anything when I'm calculating my project.
yeah.
And if he's not accounting for it, but then some of our numbers, that's where some of it is, if indeed we use it. So
Yeah, get me a-
tighten that up.
Give me a form and
Okay.
a fridge or whatever, something
Yeah.
I could just fill it in and,
Can you get us their form and
I
then
was
we'll
just
just
saying.
copy it?
I have it, but it's, what do you wanna call it? They have 4 hydrants up there, so they have 1, 2, 3, and 4 hydrant. I think you'd be better off, I could get you a copy of it so you could tailor it. You just want me to send it?
That'd be
to you?
great, yes, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Mayor Capuano.
Nothing to report.
That was easy. Also before you, you should have the code enforcement report for June 2017. Attorney's not here this evening. Are there any questions or comments on the code enforcement report? Move on to the secretary.
Can I just add one thing there? We did have, I believe it was a total of 3 properties that did not come into compliance for different notices where the borough has performed the work and they have been invoiced for that. At least one of them was in begging us to take it, well, is there anything you can do about it? I said, well, I can send you a second notice if you don't pay for it, but we already spent the money to clean up the property because he didn't do it. So, just so the citizens are aware that we are aggressively going after what we can go after if people do not, we work very hard to get them to come into compliance and, not to file citations, not to take any punitive action, but if the people don't respond, we have started, we did it only once last summer, but I told Tony this year that, you know, as soon as he has somebody that isn't in compliance, he reaches that stage where, you know, they're just not cooperating or they're gonna get a citation, then let us know and we're putting in the work orders and taking care of it, and if we have to, we'll lien the property if they don't pay the invoice.
It's been an ongoing challenge, so thank you for that effort.
Right. I was gonna ask what the, you go ahead for, what is it?
Good, yeah.
I was gonna ask what violations did we take care of? Was it grass or was it trash? Or?
Mostly grass and trash, yeah. We had a property that, the guy put a bunch of trash in bags, but then left it sitting in his backyard for quite some time, and we had complaints from the neighbors, and we reached out, and it was still there, so.
But with grass, like, once it gets to a point, like, if you didn't do it, you weren't gonna do it.
Exactly.
When your grass is a foot tall,
And I
it's too
have
late
to,
already, like.
I have to think that, at least in one instance, the word might have got out because there was a property across the street that had gotten the notice and wasn't doing anything, and all of a sudden, after we did the one across the street, like 2 days later, massive cleanup, so.
Mr. Grove, any question?
Yes, one of the ordinances, is there any ordinances for these signs on the sidewalks? You know, when you walk, I walk the streets quite a bit here in town, and that one, there's like 3 in particular downtown here with the businesses that have those, you know, fold-out signs. And that one there at 33 computer place, that's pretty narrow right in there. Is that all right for them to
Well,
walk the sidewalks?
I'd have to look to see what it says specifically, but I will tell you that we've already discussed at the last meeting and also the revitalization committee meeting about looking at some comprehensive look at our zoning, which the sign ordinance is part of the zoning, because there are some issues, other issues with our sign ordinance. So we'll certainly review that, take a look at that, and if there is a problem there, we'll address it with them, and we'll also, council can take a look at if we don't have any regulation about that kind of signage, if council wants to implement something, that'll be part of that process.
If you walk the sidewalks, it's a problem. You know, particularly, I mean, just by yourself, but if you was to meet somebody else, there'd be no way you'd be able to.
I think we do have an ordinance that says you can't obstruct the sidewalk, so we'll take a look at that. And
The other one would be the signs that we put in the middle for those crosswalks. The one at Sorrento's, if you put it on the north side of that, you can't make a right out of there.
The one at-
It's always on the sidewalk now.
Actually, the one at Sorrento's, I believe the problem is that it got moved for a delivery truck, and then it was moved back and not placed where it had been. And I apologize, because that should have been taken care of. I noticed that last week. I didn't write it down, and I forgot to address it and get it taken care of, but we'll.
But if you could put it on the south side of the intersection, you can turn wherever you need to. When you put it on the north side, coming out of Ann Street to make a right, that's why it would have had to have been moved. But even my little
On the other side,
car,
but you're right, because Ann Street being one way, it would be.
yeah.
Previously, wasn't it in the middle, kind of down by Serrano's entrance?
Yeah, it was kind of in between, like the pub and Sorrento's entrance, so that kind of anybody crossing the street there.
Right. Yeah.
I think was where they had.
That sign was on the sidewalk for about a week, and I'm the guy that stopped and put it back, so if it's in the wrong spot.
Well, then
that's
two
my fault.
people put it back, because Lisa Sorrento's told me about her putting it back one time too, so.
And they have a tick mark of how many times it
No,
gets hit.
my guess is,
Keep
I've
I
seen it.
hate that.
Yeah, I think it got.
It's probably gotten
Big
nicked a
car.
couple times.
Oh, yeah.
I've made the turn
Feel like
off the
I'm
van on
hitting
the
it all the
market
time.
with it.
I
when
don't
put it,
think I have.
'cause I did that the same day, to make sure it was all right,
Yeah.
so, you know, if you're bringing a tractor trailer out, that could be a challenge.
We'll have that done tomorrow. Maybe Thursday, because Mike and I may not be here tomorrow, depending on other council action.
Anything else under codes enforcement? Byron, did you have another question?
I forgot something, so whenever you
All right.
fit it in.
It's all yours.
The firehouse, the brick has been repointed on the front of
Is
the
that,
old.
is that the
building.
work that was being done?
Yes,
Okay.
it's done. So, done by Michael Lynn Masonry in Duncannon. He was recommended by Brian Mabius. So, yep, that's all been done. We're getting ready to finish it by putting the new windows upstairs. So just to preserve the front of that building, which was rapidly deteriorating.
I haven't seen it, I think, since the scaffolding's been done, but I look forward to it. Is the scaffolding down?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, he took it down late yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
I look forward to seeing it. Thank you guys for doing the work to improve that corner of the town.
And I, just, looking at that area down there, obviously that is the old Borough Hall. That portion of the building is the old Borough Hall from years, you know, obviously from, what was it, 1912 or something's on the stone there. If there would ever be, if we would ever construct a new firehouse at that site, that part of it would be preserved. That's our thinking of the whole, putting the money into it, and, you know, keeping it so. It's obviously a historical part of the borough.
Thank you. Anything else? We're caught up.
No.
Secretary, that's easy. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. Anything for the secretary? Well, the borough manager, Mr. Cordy.
Thank you, sir. You have my written report, and most of the items in it that require action are on other places on the agenda. Some of them we've already covered. The two things that I want to go over, one is the approval for a new date for the electronics recycling. As you know, we had planned to do it last Saturday and then learned that one of our crew members was getting married and they're all going to be attending it. So we're requesting council approval of the new date. I believe we put the, no, not the 19, 21, 20, September 16, I believe it is. I couldn't remember if 15 or 16, but.
Are you looking for action on that?
If, I'd like council's blessing. I mean, I don't know that we necessarily need it, but I'd
So be it.
like to have you,
Which date is it? September what?
16th.
Second, I don't know if we actually need any action. Let's just take it.
16th of what?
September.
September.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Mr. Kirkhoff to approve the second electronics recycling for Saturday, September 16, 2017. Any further discussion? All those in favor, give consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
What times?
That's going to be determined. It'll be to start at 7 or 8.
Yeah, we have, because we'll have to figure out how we're gonna do the electronics and what
Okay.
kind of.
And it's just electronics?
Probably not, but we don't, that has to be worked out yet.
Oh, okay.
We may have dumpsters as well, like we do in the spring cleanup.
The electronics part is a little more cumbersome because it's an outside vendor.
Right.
The regular trash or junk part,
Yeah.
we can kind of do in-house,
Okay. Both then?
possibly.
Possibly.
So we did the approval here because the electronics requires some expense.
Got it.
Is Penn Township involved in that?
I'm going to have more talks with Helen, but they're talking about doing it at their fall cleanup event in October, so I don't know whether they'll want to do that or not, but we'd already, council, when we approved it, had already decided if not, that we'll have a period that will be exclusive for the borough residents, and then an open period with a fee that we determined. I'd have to look in the minutes, I think it was $5 an item or something like that.
See, county county's $5 a pound.
15 minutes for everybody else.
Theirs is open every week now.
The one in Cumberland County.
Yeah.
$5 a pound.
I think that's what it is, $5 a pound, something like that.
That's open to
They're
anybody.
charging by the
It
pound.
sounds like
let's put
a
it that
trial endeavor,
way. Yeah.
but it
They
is open.
had it before. and
Yeah,
it's stopped.
they had it and got rid of it
Yeah,
before.
now they're bringing it back.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
I didn't think it was that much.
The second item, this was not in your packets, but you'll have on your, it was at your spots tonight, came in after that. Advanced Disposal is who we take our trash to. It used to be Dillard's Transfer Station, and Advanced Disposal took them over. They called us, they were looking for a copy of our agreement with Dillard's because they couldn't find it in their files. We don't have a copy of it here that we could find. So they've sent us a copy of their standard agreement. The terms are the same as what the terms were previously and what we're already paying. The action that I would ask for would be approval subject to the solicitor reviewing it before it signs.
Is there any term of this agreement as far as time?
I didn't see any, Craig, but
I didn't see it, but this came in yesterday, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. I just wanted to get it in front of you to, and to have Bill review it to make sure that it's,
They don't have any numbers in for it, how many months or a period or anything.
This would be if we use it, but if we decide not to use it, there's.
Yeah, this is
no
just if
liability.
we're
Okay.
dumping there. It's-
We do use that who hauls out the dumpster at the treatment plant.
Pardon me?
Advanced is who does the hauling at the treatment plant, the dumpster that's.
Yeah, but that's a different division of theirs, I believe,
Okay, just,
or a different operation that,
okay.
I'll move that we,
It looks like notice of termination, 60 days, but not more than 120 days prior to the termination.
Evergreen clause in it, so if we ever wanted to stop it, you'd have to do it within the time period before that renews. You know what I mean? So Craig's question about, is there a time limit on it? How long does this agreement go for? Because if it's 3 years,
Second.
so we can discuss,
I'm sorry,
just so we can enter. discussion.
What's the motion?
I move that we accept and send this to Bill.
I think I answered my own question. I'm good. I was looking for, is there a term, I was looking more so, is there an exclusive requirement to use them and only them and like that? That's not, that wasn't what I was the question. So I'm good.
And top of page 3, it looks like,
yeah, but there's no numbers in it. They're all blank, like they gave us a blank agreement.
right, and I think that's probably because we were at a month-to-month before, and it's, but, yeah, it's 60 days, but not more than
The reason I'm
120
asking is
days.
because I do agreements all the time, and the evergreen clause is in there, and people forget about it. And then they go to terminate, and they can't because they're within that rollover. So I just wanted to bring that up for everybody.
And really, I think this is the kind of agreement we wouldn't really have to terminate. You know, if we choose not to use them as a receptacle for stuff.
If like what Craig was saying is if we're not forced to use them by this agreement, then it doesn't matter. We can have an agreement with,
It's kind of an.
Oh, so we're not forced to
But
use
it says that we grant the contract with the exclusive right of disposal of customers' waste.
Where is that?
Top of page 3,
Yeah, that's-
third line, second, third line.
contract with exclusive right.
Everybody wants our trash.
Why don't you let me take a look at
Yeah,
it?
let's see. Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion by Mr. Kirkhoff, and a second by Mr. Williams to refer the advanced disposal agreement to the solicitor for review. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The reason for my questions was if we would opt to change anything with the refuse service or get out of the refuse business, we want to be stuck with it. Mr. Corrigan,
that's all I have.
is there anything for the solicitor, or for the manager, do the manager? Anything else for the manager? Move on then to the treasurer's report, item number 10. You have before you the weekly banking review dated June 30th, 2017. Bob, you have any comments on the document?
I do not.
Motion approved for weekly banking review of the treasurer's report, subject to audit.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Crotharmel, a second by Ms. Young, to approve the weekly banking review as our treasurer's report, subject to audit. Any further discussion? All those in favor give consent by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on then to ratification and approval of bills number 11 on the agenda. You have a statement of revenues and expenditures, should have a statement of revenues and expenditures dated 7/13/2017. Bob, do you have any comments on that? Anything else to add?
With regards to the question by Mr. Warner, I can advise him that the borough has collected of the $25,000 budget that was adopted or estimated for the fire protection money receipts. The borough has received $24,193.91 as of June 30th.
96.78%.
very good.
Okay.
Any wish for action on the bills? Any wish for action on the bills?
Make a motion to ratify and approve the bills.
Second. We have a motion by Ms. Young and second by Mr. Crotharmel to approve and ratify the bills as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, you consent by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on then to item number 12, standing committee reports. Page 2 on the agenda, the first committee, facilities and fleet, Mr. Epley.
They're having a sale of surplus equipment tomorrow. Roger and I are going to visit it, and we're hoping Mike Curley shows up. What we're interested in is a new street sweeper. I'd like to look that sweeper over to see if it's suitable for the borough and see what kind of a price we can get for it, what we can pay for it. I would like to ask for a $10,000 appropriation. Hopefully we can, the bid doesn't go that high, but I'd like for $10,000 for the auction tomorrow.
Coming from where?
I hope Fleet Facilities has it in there.
It will come, I believe, from Highway 8.
Okay, Highway 8 then.
Yeah, Highway 8 already does have an appropriation of council when they adopted the 2017 budget. I believe, Chris, you might have that information. Right. Let's see. There's currently $18,000 budget available in the 2017 budget for major equipment. Now, council, and that's in the Highway 8 fund. So council has already appropriated that much money for acquisition of major equipment during the course of calendar year 2017 to come from Highway 8.
This is the first I've heard that there was an auction or there was a thought of doing this. Did you have, as committee chair, did you have any other plans for major equipment purchases this year?
No. We weren't planning on this till it came up, basically. Our street sweeper was secondhand when it was bought years and years ago.
And my understanding is this one has a vacuum, right?
This one, just for a little bit of background information, when Roger brought this up, I'll be very honest, my first reaction was, this is the kind of purchase that we should be planning ahead of and so forth. But at the same time, I thought it certainly made sense to investigate it. So first I talked to Mike and got an assessment on the condition of our street sweeper, which obviously, Roger knows the condition of it. There's actually part of the interior that we've torn out so many times to get two parts to work on it that they don't even bother putting it back in anymore. It's pretty much seen its days, it's scrap. The second thing that comes into play is that in checking the auction website, I found out that this street sweeper is coming from New Cumberland, and I have some pretty good connections down there. The council president there is a friend of mine, so I gave Jack Murray a call, and he talked to his foreman and got me a kind of a scouting report on it. They're getting rid of it because they sold their sewer system, had a lot of cash come in, and they authorized to use some of it to upgrade some of their equipment. He said the only thing that he thinks there might be any issue with in terms of it getting through inspection would be the tires, going forward, and he's not even sure that they wouldn't pass, but that it is functioning, it works well. Obviously we'll have, some pretty qualified folks taking a look at it tomorrow before we would bid on it between Mike and Roger and Frank. We're not going to go down there and purchase a piece of junk. If it's going to be a situation where we have to put a ton more money into it than to use it, then it doesn't make sense to do it without having, planned for a capital purchase like that. But in this case, I think the circumstances really do warrant us. The other thing is that with that $10,000 figure, I think is a pretty good figure because of the fact that they are putting a $7,000 reserve on it. The only thing I would ask would be that if council would perhaps amend the motion that if within that $10,000 they also have a snow blower going at this auction, and if it's deemed that that is in good shape. We have no snow blowers, we have a lot of sidewalks that we clear, and it really is a piece of equipment that I was shocked to find out we didn't have any. So if we could pick up a reasonable price, a snow blower, that would also, within that $10,000 appropriation, I think that would be wise for us to do.
Two questions. We haven't had a motion yet. Two questions. The first is, what does a new street sweeper similar to this one cost?
Over $100,000.
Really?
I believe, yeah.
Okay.
Want to donate one?
Second question is.
Used ones of this model that I found on the web, now they were like in California and not any place nearby. There were used ones of this model, varying years, varying mileage, so that impacts it. Most of them were lower mileage than this one, but they were anywhere between 13 and 25,000 that I saw, so.
I know we had a request from Newport Borough a few years ago for them to borrow our street sweeper. And the comment at this table was ours, probably wouldn't make the trip up and back. So,
Well, and this.
I think it's obviously a need, I hadn't heard.
And this is a different type of street sweeper. It's more a truck with the unit built onto the back of it and the vacuum. It's not, the Zamboni machine type of street sweeper that we have right now. So if we did have a request like that, I would imagine it would be, so if it was something we wanted to cooperate with, it would be more suitable for traveling on the road.
What would your estimation be on the value of a snow blower that you're referring to?
Well, we have to take some look at it and see. I don't know what, I only know it's a international harvester is all I know. I don't know, the condition of it. I wouldn't think much.
I was gonna say, I would assume that's not gonna be fair. I mean, you can go buy a new snow blower for,
Yeah,
now we're talking residential use, but for a couple $100.
I'll make a motion then, we allocate up to $11,000 out of the highway aid, large equipment purchase for the bidding on and procurement of a street sweeper and potentially a snow blower.
One of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure was this suitable for Duncannon since it's a truck type? And the second thing is, and Mike's gonna have to come through on this, is there repair parts for it?
Mike was already checking on that today too, so he didn't get back to me, but he was checking on that.
Chassis is an international, so that's common.
The chassis for the street sweeper.
Yes.
And the
It's just
sweeper's
the
a common
fact-
model too. It's
Okay, then
Timco
it's
600.
good. That's great.
If you look on
What
the
year is
web.
it?
Pardon me?
What year is it?
98, 68, 1,000 miles, I think it said.
What year is the one we have?
93.
Started out with one horse.
Well, we've had it as long as Mike's been here,
Are you
which
kidding?
is what, 17 years? And who knows how long Middletown had it. So I'm guessing ours is probably close to 30 years old.
We've got plenty for Middletown.
Yes.
I mean, I would be comfortable authorizing that if there's other equipment found, they also can procure it. I don't know what all we need, but
I think as far as other equipment, if we, I don't want to go on a shopping spree. It's not, we're going to walk in the
I don't
store
think
and-
any of you would go on a shopping spree.
No, but
just mean
I think
find
if we
something-
identified other equipment that we needed and then we went looking for that particular equipment, I'd be all for that, but I think we should stick to, my personal recommendation would be we stick to what we have identified as targets and, there is the whole list and we've looked at the whole list and nobody has said anything, else on
Until
there. It looks
tomorrow,
good.
when you see another list.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, we talked about it last year and there was, they bring stuff on day of, that's why I said that's that caveat, but.
I think if there was a list of, the stuff that they wanted, that we could always be looking for, that would probably be beneficial. That's maybe something that could come out of committee is, these are the things that we're always on the hunt for. That would probably be beneficial, but we have to be real careful just giving them, carte blanche, knock yourselves out, get what we need, without it being
I was
approved at
thinking
this
for that
table.
part, that was like, you did what, 11,000, Craig? That,
That's correct.
I was thinking like $400 to $500, would that be?
Well, here's what I'll tell
For any
you,
miscellaneous.
as far as that is concerned, we do have money already appropriated for equipment in our budget. And so if we're there and we identify things that make sense, I am authorized to make purchases. It's major purchase like the street sweeper that, we come to council for approval on something, that kind of a big ticket item. Frankly, if we'd have found a snow blower when we were down at the federal surplus in Harrisburg last week that was suitable and that was the right price, we'd have bought that then and informed council that we've added that to our equipment. So there's no problem with looking at other equipment tomorrow and, you know, not major things because but, you know, smaller items and stuff, absolutely.
I've made the motion, Mr. Cawthorn will seconded the motion for $11,000 for the intention of purchasing a street sweeper and snow blower. Any further discussion? All those in favor give consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Another thing, we have a committee meeting coming up this Thursday. Is there a necessary reason to have that committee meeting? We ought to have a discussion right here at the table if anything else comes up.
Are there any other needs as far as equipment or any plan?
I haven't heard of any. I'll wait to see if anybody else has.
Are you aware, Chris or Roger, or anything from the workforce that, we know we've got some equipment that needs some attention, but is there something else that we need to? Because I think we're, also it's July, start thinking about budget for next year, if we want a budget to replace something.
That's Chris and Mike, try to talk about that.
You haven't heard anything from Mike?
No.
I'm okay with not meeting.
We'll cancel the Thursday meeting then, which is scheduled for 6 o'clock.
Anything else?
That's it.
Anything for Mr. Epley? We'll move on then to Finance Administration Communication. Ms. Young.
I'm guessing we don't have copies of the audit, so it didn't come in yet?
Yeah, we were notified at 5:30 this afternoon that Robert Morris firm was not able to provide us our final 2015 audit report. As the committee knows, the Finance Committee did receive a draft report, but it wasn't completely finished yet. And the wait was for a bank confirmation from Morristown Bank, which was received by the auditors yesterday morning. I think they tried to get an audit report completed through partner review, through final review, but I don't think it was able to make it through those final steps. So unfortunately, we don't have a 2015 audit to be presented publicly to council tonight.
Expect to have it by next month.
Oh, yeah.
Or tomorrow?
Yeah, probably tomorrow, but that's not going to help. But
And that really leads into the second item, and one of the reasons we had trouble getting the statement from Orrstown was that the people higher up at Orrstown who were contacted we had no authorized signers who are still employed or associated with the borough. And so we ended up going through Christine Dudley, and she was able to accommodate us, knowing that we were going to take care. When we did the resolution to change signers last year, it was specific to Marysville Bank and did not authorize changing for the Orrstown account.
You then have a resolution before you, number 2017-5. A resolution of the Borough of Duncannon designating authorized signers for the borough's bank account for Orrstown Bank. This specifies the checking and certificate of deposit numbers in the final resolution section. In summary, this is authorizing Borough Manager Chris Corrigan, Borough Secretary Catherine Bauer, myself, Borough Council Vice President Darrell Crofthorne, and Finance Committee Chair Christy Young as signers on the borough's accounts. Any wish for action on the resolution?
Move to approve the resolution.
We have a motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Crofthorne to adopt resolution number 2017-5. Any further discussion? All those in favor give consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I just wanted to ask quick, with the audit, if it comes in tomorrow, we have to accept it before they can start the next one? Is that the issue?
there is a protocol. The document is supposed to be formally provided and accepted by the governing body, which would be you. Yeah, that is my understanding.
I'm wondering if that's something that, would we want to wait till the next meeting that we have to approve that? Or would we want to?
Well, that's maybe a question for our solicitor.
Special meeting, be that the only thing, only because that, personally, I'd rather not hold back the next audit.
You should, and you could recess this meeting and not adjourn it to a week ahead or something, and then you wouldn't have to advertise.
Okay.
Aren't you just a barrel of fun?
I think it would be.
I like to
robust,
think so.
I mean, you know, we don't want to have 100 meetings, but if it comes to it, I would want to get that approved.
Yeah, they can't start 16 until it's accepted.
Right,
And-
they really can't, so.
And then talking, we're gonna talk about the 2016 auditor, he's got a time crunch. He can do it now, but once the school district ones start coming in,
That's
or
what
the
I was
proposed
concerned
auditor, I
about.
guess, will not approve there, so, so that would be, we'd be behind the eight ball, yes.
I would rather just be ahead. Like,
And
if we
and
did-
the
if
other
we-
thing, Bill, we would not be able to release that because, that's one of the things that, with the financing for these projects that we're looking at, that they want to see, so it's a delay in that process. We couldn't release it until it's
Yeah,
approved,
no,
right?
absolutely. We should approve this and get it moving, and so we can move on. And we got stuff in the fire. We got to get that this is hanging up. So
Without knowing when we're going to see that audit, assuming it's a couple days, can we recess to a time to be determined? Or we have to stay?
no, you have to announce it tonight.
I'd hate to recess to a day and it, for some reason, not be done.
Hey, Bob, when do you realistically think you're gonna?
I really thought they could have it done today. It must have been a partner review matter of some sort. And they didn't get back to us till 5:30. I think as the finance committee knows of
How far
it.
ahead do we have to advertise that?
You don't if you recess it.
No, but if we didn't recess. how
24
long?
hours.
How much?
24 hours.
The only problem with that is,
Right, under the papers.
we have very limited availability, we don't have a daily paper.
Mhm.
Well, if we.
The Sentinel doesn't qualify here, does it?
It does for Wheatfield,
The what?
the Sentinel.
Oh.
It's a stretch.
Well, if we set something for next week, or the other option maybe would be the communications and finance, the August 3rd.
Yeah, I'm not here next week, but I mean, if it's just to accept that, I mean.
I'm not here next week either, so I don't know if that matters if you,
I'm not here next week either.
So how's August 3rd look?
That sounds fun to me.
What time are you thinking?
Communications and finance is 6:30, so we can do it at 6 to 6:30, or?
I can't do that. I personally can't do that. Could we do 6:30?
Is there a time you can do that day?
I could do after 7:30. 7:30 or later. You don't need me, there's.
I think, if we're only going to, I wouldn't want us to, even though you can't recess, Bill, you correct me if I'm wrong, and say that we're gonna come back and only do this, but I think as long as the understanding is that the only thing is going to be to accept the audit, then it's just a question of what date, even next week, can we have a quorum?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the people to accept the audit next week, I would do it next week. I'd rather just get it started. I mean,
I just didn't know if it mattered if you recess if the secretary is, somebody else can just take it.
We just have to complete the minutes.
Yeah, it'd be like you walked out. the
Okay,
meeting.
I just
How about
putting it
not?
out there.
They'll appoint us a temporary.
That's fine,
Secretary.
I just won't be here.
I mean, if we're expecting it any day,
I can't say when, Mayor, I wish I could. Because I wasn't notified as to, well, it's gonna be an hour, a day, or a week. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be because there were no issues that I was made aware of, so. I was even wondering whether and I don't think we can, I was even wondering whether we could release final drafts to the lending institutions. I was wondering that question too, but, yeah, well,
they would take,
they wouldn't accept it anyway, probably.
well,
they'd look at it.
they look at it, they're
Well,
not
I would
making a
say
decision.
here, all it needs is a stamp,
Well,
you
we still
know.
need 16 anyway.
Here's what
Instead
it
of
is.
16, they'd be fine.
Can't you do it on a phone thing and then do final approval?
That's a practice that used to go on here that is highly illegal.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's got
I
its
didn't know
problems.
whether.
Yeah, no, that's a violation of the Sunshine Act. The council cannot deliberate or take action outside of a public meeting.
I didn't
No,
know.
I know that it was,
There's a way to
I
do
saw
it.
that in the minutes in the past, and I know that other places have done that too, but it's,
We generally advise against it.
Anyone have a suggestion for a date and time?
I mean, if we're truly expecting it to be a day,
5:30. How early can most of us get here?
Depends on the day.
I think what you're gonna bring up is Thursday, right?
yeah.
Like, we're already here for sewer Thursday, if we really thought it was coming tomorrow, but
But we could do it and then before.
I have a 7 PM meeting Thursday night, but I could do.
You're free from 5 o'clock till.
would it be,
I'm
I mean, I don't
called
know,
for
if we could get
All
enough
right,
people for
I
Thursday,
understand.
we could do it, if we can't do it, we could recess again, couldn't we?
Yes.
That was my question.
So,
Yes.
You would open the
our meeting
meeting.
starts at 6:30, if we did it at 6,
Right.
we all are, I mean, we're here anyways. If we have it, we approve it, if not, recess to whenever next week.
I think that's doable.
Right, see, I just think it's gonna be something.
So no one make a motion to adjourn at the end of the meeting.
Right.
Nobody
Roger.
seconded it, no, okay.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, Roger.
And you need to make sure you can have 4 council members here.
Right.
I mean,
I could be
two of
here
us
at
are here,
6:00.
but, okay.
2, 3, 4.
Thursday at 6.
I may be able to
You're on my calendar.
So do we want to tentatively plan at the end of our meeting tonight to recess till 6 PM on Thursday? Okay. Very good. Okay.
And we will be in contact.
Tell me the deadline is 6 PM Thursday.
5:45, so we can make
Council
out.
persons get overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll see that next year's budget.
okay. So are we good with, we did the resolution. So, as was in the packets, there were 2 responses for the RFP for auditing services for 2016 and 2017. One from Wagner, Dries, Ellisor and Associates out of Selinsgrove. The second was Zelenkovsky Axelrod out of Harrisburg. Both have the experience. WE&A, their bid was for $10,500 for 16 and $11,000 for 17. ZA's bid was $14,725 for 16 and $15,020 for 17. Plus, the representative from WE&A was here, and they can work with the scheduled timeline, which helps us considerably because we're kind of in a tight spot. So the motion I would make is to authorize to engage the auditor for the 2016 and 2017 borough audits of Wagner, Dries, Ellisor and Associates.
I'll second.
You're making that motion.
I am.
Okay.
And I'll say that, I mean, Chris, you called him and he was here the next day to give us information, answer any questions, if that tells you that it means at least something to him.
and they are, one of the things we did in sending out the RFP is we searched for firms that said they did auditing. We used some accounting websites to look for firms that said they did auditing, but we didn't just look in the Harrisburg area. We went the whole surrounding area and looked, and that's how we ended up with this firm from Selinsgrove. I grew up in that area and was not familiar with the name, but when he was here and we talked to him, found out they are the successors of a firm that's long-standing up that area with a very sparkling reputation, and just the other partners are all retired and the name has changed. So they are a well-established firm, and did have, Bob did also check into some of their background and so forth, and we found no issues.
We have a motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Kirkhoff to engage Wagner, Dries, Elasser and Associates, WDE&A, of Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, or Harrisburg, Pennsylvania,
Selinsgrove, yeah.
with an office in Harrisburg,
Gotcha, yeah.
to complete our 2016 audit for the amount of $10,500 and our 2017 audit for the amount of $11,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor, give consent by saying aye. Any opposed?
Amount back for them to do the
Motion carries.
Yes, okay. The other discussion is that then we would need to engage that same auditor for the 2016 authority audit, and it is a goofy set of dates. What's the?
June 14th is the fiscal year ended for the authority.
So they would be doing 6/14/15 15 through.
Right, 615, 15 through 614, 16. if that
And
makes
you
sense.
have a dollar amount of.
Yes. 1,500 for the first year and 2,000 for the second year.
Was that a motion, Christie?
Yes.
Okay, make sure I get this right. A motion by Ms. Young to engage Wagner, Dries, Elasser, and Associates of Selinsgrove and Harrisburg to complete the 2015-2016 authority audit in the amount of $1,500, and the 2016-2017 authority audit in the amount of $2,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
All those any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, who's the second on that? I'm sorry, go first.
And then the last action that we have is the resolution 2017-6, which was in your packets. This is, I don't know, does somebody want to explain this better than what I'm going to?
As part of the financing that we're working on, we included, when we went out for this financing package, the reservoir liner project and also some of the sewer project work that is being done is included in the proposed financing. The way it works is that once we start this process, we can go back 60 days and reimburse the general fund from the proceeds of the financing for things that were, or the appropriate fund, I should say, whether it's sewer or water general, for certain things. So we had the expenses of the reservoir liner and the influent pumps that we've already incurred, that in the budgeting process, we were looking at those as being part of this being financed. That was where the revenue was coming for those projects. So this resolution is a requirement as kind of setting the stage for the finalizing of the financing, which we've been informed by the consultant that we will have, we're expecting to have at least one and possibly two proposals as soon as they have the 2015 audit and our draft 2016 financials, which Bob will be able to complete once he has the adjustments from 2015 to enter into the system. So,
And those two proposals are Orrstown and Fulton, if I read it correctly?
I believe it's
Or
Riverview.
I'm sorry, Riverview and Fulton.
I believe Riverview had indicated to us at a meeting that they would work with us based on, getting the financial documents. And then we were informed by Jay Warner that he also had a pending proposal from Fulton.
Do those proposals expect to have any kind of requirement of our current deposit accounts if we would go with Fulton?
We don't have any details at this point yet. I would anticipate that would be an expectation.
They're all doing that now.
What's that?
They're all doing that now.
They likely would, but there may be some negotiation to that too, because personally, I work at Fulton, but we wouldn't want to have accounts that we would need to access maybe
That's
cash
right.
from at Fulton where we have to go somewhere.
Right.
So
That's exactly my concern.
they would require deposits of some sort.
Right.
As part of the loan
They
package.
do, they always do.
We could put,
It's no big deal.
just for convenience sake,
Good
we
idea.
could keep some accounts convenient.
Well, and I think some of the recommendation was to diversify anyway because of the
Well,
insurance, so.
I'm sorry.
No, so I don't see a big deal with that.
With the cessation of taking cash, it really doesn't make a difference because
Okay.
we do everything electronically, so.
Okay. I didn't consider that.
So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2017-6.
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Crowthermal to approve Resolution 2017-6, authorizing and directing officials of the borough together with the borough solicitor, financial advisor, and note counsel heretofore appointed by the borough to do and undertake certain action preparatory to and in furtherance of the issuance of such debt and rescinding prior inconsistent resolutions. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I believe that is all I have.
Does anyone have anything for Ms. Young? Mr. Crawford will ask we take a short recess. It's going to be 5. Reconvene at 9:30.
We had a Facebook message. Somebody asked if the tires from the old street sweeper were the new one. I don't either, but the question was asked. I would guess not either, but we don't know, Brian.
Oh, you know, I didn't even think about that one.
What size wheels is normal?
I don't have any clue. About what? Brian wanted to know, Brian Clubs.
Oh, it's true. Hey, the good news is there's 2 people watching.
And one of them, I think, is Brian Clugston, who asked about the tires.
Brown is
273 feet.
That,
So 4 goes in the counter standpipe, the valve is here, like
should be preserved.
here's 1.
Reserved?
It's on the borough's Facebook page.
It's on the borough's page. Yeah, it's on the borough's Facebook page. Look at you.
Can you preserve those?
Yeah, that's him. Were you panicking about me on my cell phone? Usually it's my kids. Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?
What's the appropriate
Oh. Welcome. Welcome to the
That's wonderful. I figured out how to get the flashlight on.
Documents for
I got that.
You know anything about that?
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why I was asking the other day, when we started Chestnut, because I was
It's
hoping
the option, it's the option for the.
we could uncover what's coming around here. Because currently we sort of think, looking in the forward, this light went out this way.
For FOR, 100,000.
Right. What's the name of this? Oh, I'm sorry. If you're correct with this, we need to.
I think Josh mentioned it was front, but I don't think.
No, I didn't.
He did a full presentation for our.
What I was told is sixth grade, so you built that old house. I have a feeling that somehow,
I'm pretty sure
he's got a mark.
He's on vacation this week.
So this line here, you can do it with my own.
Yep, that's it.
Somehow it's the old house. Then it continues down Chestnut Street, right? However, this, number one, it lines up, and number two, you know, following down the road, everything's developed. I think it comes out.
The House bill.
That's.
Like I wrote 3 of them down. I got you, Adams, brothers.
I'm also.
Her brothers. Jeffrey,
This is.
William, Kirkhoff, Williams, and Young spoke. Happily abstained.
I got that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Break it into this perimeter bullshit.
My bad. You know why? You know what? This is a bunch of school board and they're all 9.
Yeah, because it's size into this is the same both sides.
And Newport song was from Fulton.
We just start at 2 and count that as 1 and then go over.
There you go.
That was my intention.
You're all right.
42 seconds late. To bring the meeting back to order, was there anything else for finance administration communication? Move on to the letter C, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Williams.
The movie night was a success. Not as big a turnout as what we planned on, but it was a success. Everyone that did show enjoyed it. Thank you, Chris, for all your hard work in that, and your workforces, and your office staff. They did a lot too. Next thing we have coming up is August 1st, which is National Night Out. And Chairman has got that under control, and it's going well. That's it until we hit the fall. The only other thing is, you'll notice up on the tavern lot, there is another tree planted. That was donated by Lee Wright.
Awesome.
And the other tree is still under doctor's care, which is Tony Kyler from Goods Tree. He has been donating his time. He's still giving it a 65% survival rate. It was our planning that we stressed it. We went too high up on the trunk with dirt. But he's still hopeful, so we'll see.
Anything for Parks and Recreation? Move on into Personnel, Legal, and IT. We did have our meeting this evening as advertised. The crux of the conversation was, we talked last month about some pay increases for our employees, for our staff. Reviews were not completed in 2016, and there were no raises in 2016 for a variety of reasons, time, finances being the biggest ones. I'd like to make a motion that we award a 3% increase to all employees except Mr. Proboff, retroactive to 6/25/2016.
16 or 17?
17, I'm sorry. 17.
Second.
I made the motion, Mr. Adams the second. Any further discussion? I'm sorry?
You might want to amend, all employees would include, the building clerk has not completed even the probation period yet.
That's correct. We didn't, okay. I'll amend my motion to exclude Mr. Krobach and Ms. Forbes.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Retroactive to when?
6/20, the pay period beginning 6/25/17. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd also like to make a motion to award a 1.5% increase to Mr. Krobach, retroactive to 6/25/2017.
Second.
I made the motion, Mr. Adams, the second the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's the only item I have for this evening. Anything for me? Thank you. We'll move on to public safety, Mr. Crawford.
We did meet briefly last week. The only item that anybody brought to the table was the yearly EMS report. Copies were provided for all members of the committee. Have not had anybody reach out with any questions. They briefly kind of go over it page by page. Mr. Nace was not able to be there. He probably would have been the better one to have to go over it page by page and compare the report. But in any case, if anybody has any questions about that document or if any other council members would like a copy of it, please feel free to reach out. I'll get to it. Anything else for public safety? That's all I have.
Anything for Mr. Crawford?
One thing, it's not directed at DJ, but a question come up earlier. The reason you haven't been hearing the house siren was related to the brick project. The three-phase wire was taken down because the conduit ran up the face of the brick, and we will be, now that the project is done, the wire can be reinstalled. We're relocating the conduit up the other side of the building. So.
I think part of me was hopeful that the siren was going away. Has there ever been any discussion about, I mean, it really serves no call purpose, if I understand.
You know, if you talk to people, some people depend on it still to know what time of day it is. But and as it serves no general purpose to the responders per se, I still think it does serve a notice to the public that hey, there is a call to be on the alert. You know that I don't disagree with you at all about the concept of it not being current. But
I know there's some emotional connection to it.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of one way or the other.
Personally, like when I hear it, I go look. I live up high on the hill, so when I go up, I go look out the window and see if I see anything. That's just a natural reaction.
Column of smoke.
That's what happens when it goes off. I look and see if I see a column
Outside
of
of
smoke.
some sort of different alerting system that we ever would have, and actually back in the day, I can remember it as a kid when Tom Evans would walk in there at 10 o'clock at night and push the button for the curfew. Obviously, if there would be any type of alert needed in the area for, TMI or any type of disaster, could be capable of being used, but.
Do you have any sense, I know it's a power consumer, it activates 5 days a week plus every call with a few exceptions. Any sense on, what kind of electricity consumption, what kind of cost that may be? We've had discussion here.
Well,
about trying to-
it does have its own meter.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the 3-phase meter that it's obviously disconnected right now because the conduit ran up the face of the brick building. That meter could easily be seeing what the bill is on it, because that's its sole purpose.
Right. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Anything else? We'll move on to the utilities, streets, infrastructure, Mr. Kirkhoff.
All right, Chris, I'll let you take the lead because you have all the notes from the meeting.
We discussed street paving projects and street projects that we have coming up. And in consulting, we looked at a couple of things, and one of the things we did talk about was the Market Street repaving, out at the end where the sewer project was done. In consulting with Greg, we did get some estimates, and the estimates, first of all, would come to a little bit more than what we currently have in liquid fuels. Second, Greg advised us after talking to some contractors that people's schedules are pretty filled up for paving projects, and that we would probably get a much better price if we waited and go to bid for that in November for work to be done in the spring. And of course, the benefit of that is then next year we would have the additional year of liquid fuels funding to pay for that. So that was not something that was brought on then to council for action. The Butcher Shop Road culvert, as we discussed before, is included in the financing package that we were working on. It's been hanging around here. It was first, from what I can find researching the files on my computer, it appears it was first discussed back in 2013. It's been needed for quite some time, and so the committee's recommendation was to go ahead and have Canoni direct them to prepare and advertise the bid documents and look to proceed with that project. In conjunction with that, as some background, I had a discussion with Greg today, and we're going to have some conversations with the property owners on either side to see if we can expand the right-of-way by a few feet, which we think could save us considerably because we would not have to position those there's some wing walls there that are kind of odd angle, and it would allow us to structure it a little differently. Am I right, Greg?
Yeah,
Save a
and
little
by
money.
expanding the pipe, we have a little more flexibility in the guide rail issue too, which is a pretty significant expense. So to spend a couple extra dollars to make the pipe longer to save us guide rail would be huge. So the only thing we lose is a little bit of time, but frankly, it's been 4 years, so I don't think that's the big deal.
Do you know who the property owners are?
Yes.
I
Pew?
think I know one.
And the other one is a conglomerate off Lingostown Road, Green, it's the trailer park.
The trailer park.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I was going to say, it should only be 2 properties.
yeah.
I thought I knew one, I wasn't sure.
If you talk to them and they're willing to do it, get me something, some sort of sketch or something for them, and I can prepare the document referencing that sketch to give them, to actually move the right.
Chris, I have a letter drafted, I'll send it to you tomorrow, and get that out of borough letterhead, and then see where it goes.
I'll say, we also talked about with the other paving projects, Market Street being the one that most have heard about. I'm partial to doing High Street more, but Market Street, we're gonna look at that and see where it needs it the most, and we may end up looking at that as multiple projects, depending on what funds are available and what needs it most.
My opinion is Market Street should have been completed when the sewer line was done. It's kind of let go. I think that's, I personally feel the most concerned about Market Street. As far as
I like it because it's like speed bumps, it slows people down.
Yep, I live on Market Street, I'd rather see them do High Street. I'll even pay for putting a speed bump in front of my house.
Well, and we also, and this has taken longer than I would have liked it to, but it's a brand new thing. We have Mike handling some administrative duties as the foreman. And so we're working with him, him and I are kind of working on, and he's gathering information. We want to put together a long-term street paving project plan so that we say, okay, these are the streets that need done next, and, kind of get them into a schedule so that we're doing routine upkeep and maintenance on them so that we don't need to completely rebuild streets.
I believe we probably need some kind of assessment, because our former engineering firm, 2 engineers ago, identified some significant issues on Creek Road coming into town, where it turned, just before it turned into Commonwealth Street. What do you call it, alligator cracking, and so eventually the road's just gonna fall out. And that was, how long have you guys been here, 5 years? That's probably 17 years ago. It hasn't gotten better.
And I think there's some areas where as we do some of this, we need to start looking at requiring curbs to be installed, because that is a real problem with the maintenance of them. And when we get to the point where we are, right now we're not included in the MS4 requirements, but that's coming. And when we are required to meet those requirements, then that'll be essential to controlling the stormwater runoff. Will play a big role as having proper curbs, but also that is just simply a key to maintaining your streets, because then the water doesn't run under them.
You really think that's forthcoming for us?
Everybody tells me that. Greg, do you have a?
Well, when is the question? I mean, I think eventually, but it might be 2014, or I'm sorry, 2040.
Okay.
I mean, that type of, but the more you say it now, the less it hurts when it actually happens.
Oh, do we want to take action, right?
Yeah, to
Or just
authorize
okay.
Panoni
Well, I'll move
to
that we-
prepare and advertise bid documents.
Second.
Just for a point of clarification, this is actually in contrast to the motion that last time. We will be proceeding with this year as opposed to next year.
Correct.
We have a motion by Mr. Kirkhoff, a second by Mr. Williams to proceed with the Bishop Shop Road culvert, authorizing the engineering firm to prepare bid documents and advertise bids for completion before the end of 2007. Is there any further discussion?
Do we have to do anything about talking to property owners?
That'll be part of, we'll complete that. If there's a requirement, for example, if they have requirements that we need council's approval, then that will delay the process, obviously, because we'd have to come back and discuss that. We're hopeful. It's a very minor, it's a couple of feet in the stream, basically. It's not like asking them to use property that they could use for anything else, or and it's, 4 or 5 feet?
Yeah, on one side, maybe up to like 10 on the other.
So we'll see how that works out, because that obviously will be part of what they, determines their design and preparing the bid documents.
Right.
I'm eager to see how that goes too. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Then the other thing was the LED streetlights. We had, council asked last meeting, they delayed action, asking for a count on how many we needed. So in your package you saw that Mike said he needs 10 additional 40-watt bulbs, 4 70-watt bulbs, and 12 mounting arms. That does not include the replacements for High Street, where we've already ordered those and taken care of those. He did we tried to get 3 quotes rather than just, in the past we've just gone with the same supplier because we've had special deals from them, but we wanted to, with this amount of them, get some quotes to be sure that we were doing well. And we found out that the manufacturer just has 2 distributors in the state. The one we were not able to get a response from. I reached out to him, Mike reached out to him, we never got back any quote. He did find another supplier who had them, but they were not a direct distributor. So United Utility Supply, which is who we've used before, was the low quote at $2,915 is the total.
And this isn't a Co-Stars item?
I don't believe so. I did. It could probably, you can buy almost anything through Co-Stars,
Right.
but
That wasn't researched at all to see if there's better pricing on a comparable unit or anything like that.
I think we were looking at the model that we've been using, specifically, and I don't know what was behind the decision on, which model and which unit we use, but I think.
the reason we did it was because we got the deal.
No, actually, we met with the rep on those lights and the two guys that have been helping us out with a lot of electrical stuff in the borough, done the research and came back to Mike Riley and said, this is what you want to go with, this is your cheapest operating light there is, and the best quality of light. And that's why we went with that distributor, because he actually brought in 3 different makes, and that's the one we chose.
Because there's, probably CoStar's deals, or
Could be.
contracts for, I'm guessing not for this particular device.
We can check on that.
I'm curious, sometimes there's minimum savings, sometimes there's significant savings, I don't know.
Well,
Sometimes.
I guess what I would say is if council authorizes the 2915, we'll check CoStars, and if we can get them for less than that, absolutely, we'll save, but that'll, we know that that's the maximum that it'll be.
So it's $2,915
Yes.
Yes.
Let's do how many lights?
This is for a total of 14 lights and 12 mounting arms.
And it's not just the bulb, it's the
Right.
fixture, correct?
Some of them have arms already.
Market Street needs the arms.
Yeah. So it's, what you said, it's 12 arms, right?
Yeah, 12 arms are included in that.
Well, we said just bulbs, but we actually have,
It's the whole fixture,
Okay,
it's the whole
that's
fixture,
Yeah.
correct, yes.
May I complete Market Street then?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll be able to see the speed bump better.
And the cracks in the sidewalk.
We have a motion with a second to allocate up to $2,915 for the replacement of balance of the lights on Market Street to the recommended LEDs or a comparable CoStar's item. A question, which I think I sent an email to this effect but received no reply, so the email may not have gone out. But we removed a number of lights from Market Street we replaced with the current LEDs. There was some, I don't want to say heated, but there was some discussion last month about, not having parts or not having fixtures for High Street. Where did the lights go that were removed from Market?
I can answer that. I did check with Mike on that. Everything that was salvageable, he salvaged, which is no surprise because if there's an axle on an old wagon that he thinks he can do something with, he'll save it and
But none of those, with all those lights, none of those parts were able to replace High Street?
I don't believe they were the ones that, because of the difference in the fixtures, but Roger, you have better
The
knowledge
ones
of
that
that.
we replaced so far on Market Street, none of them took new arms, so it's a whole different amount. The ones on High Street, and 2 of them that I know they took down on Market Street, which would be the same style as High Street. The whole inside was burned out.
And I assume
You
that.
had the outside case, so till you go buy a ballast kit, till you buy everything else, you're back into sodium and mercury vapor. You've got the price of half of or 3/4 of a new light already.
That's what I would, and not long term, but more so, I was thinking, we went a couple weeks or a couple months without those lights being replaced after the
Right.
storm. Perhaps we could have used one, at least temporarily until the bulb went out or whatever.
That's a
Just to get
possibility,
by
too.
and have a light, 'cause that was.
And we do, Bob, did you get a confirmation yet on the addendum to the claim with those 2 lights, or just that
Yes.
they've got the information?
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to, this might be a good point to segue for just a second. Some good news related to this discussion. With regards to the May 5th storm claim, the borough received a check for $20,163 for its submission. The insurance company accepted everything we submitted but for the $1,000 deductible. It was brought to our attention that these 2 lights that we're talking about now were not part of the original claim submission. I submitted that last week, and I got confirmation yesterday that the insurance company is going to cover another $496 for that cost and labor. So the borough did very well by its insurance coverages for that claim. So
Very good.
Thanks, Bob. We have a motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Crawford to allocate up to $2,915 for replacement of the balance of the lights on Market Street to LED fixtures. Any further discussion? All in favor, you consent by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The last thing I wanted to bring up, my plan is to try and come up with some sort of light replacement for the next couple of years. Let's try and get them all turned over to LED in time. So as we burn out a bulb, we'll obviously try and replace with LED. But yeah, that was something I was hoping to do in committee over the next couple of months, was get that.
I really believe the LEDs provide just a much brighter light, but a wider area too. Like on Cumberland Street, for instance, between the firehouse and Market, there's a lot more visibility.
Big difference on that street.
You know, and there's no additional fixture, it's just upgraded fixture. So I think they make a world of difference.
Did you have anything else?
No, just to add on to what Bob said, I want to, again, commend Mike Crowley because he did a good job of documenting hours and supplies and everything that was used. So we had good records to submit for the claim. Very different in our situation in dealing with the snowstorm where we had to go back through and kind of recreate everything because it hadn't been, which I think is kind of a matter too. You go through one of these things once and then you realize what you need to do. So I think, we were able to, talking with Mike, hey, I'll make sure we document this and that, and he did a great job of it, so.
Having the right people in the right spot is the reason we have that reimbursement. Question. A couple months ago, I inquired about the area 700 High Street stormwater repair that was partially done but not completed. You were going to take it back to committee.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything since.
I feel like we talked about this, but I don't.
There's some cold patch on some of it, there's some dirt, or stone filling on some of it.
700 High Street?
Correct. Mr. Bissonette, who was here last month, indicated that he was told by somebody in the borough, I don't know if it was Lynn or who, that we just didn't have the money to do it, and that's why the job wasn't finished. And that's one of those that, it's not good for the snowplow, certainly, but if we're still pumping water out of the storm sewer somewhere it shouldn't go, we need to fix that. Especially if MS4 is coming.
Should be the next block up too, Chris. Tell Mike to look at the next block up to next street.
I remember when that came in and I looked at it but I don't remember what Mike told me then. I think he had plans for.
I was gonna say, I thought we talked about it. I don't.
Yeah, I'll double check with Mike and we'll.
I just want to make sure it didn't fall off.
It's addressed. No.
Fall off the radar.
I know he's, because he's working on a plan also for storm drains and sanitary sewer, stormwater sewers, that need, we have a number that need to be repaired or rebuilt.
Anything else under utilities, streets, infrastructure?
That's all for tonight. We do have sewer authority on Thursday, so
After the borough meeting.
after the borough meeting, after this meeting finishes, so we might have something next month. So.
Anything for Mr. Kirkhoff?
I have a question, and I'm not sure, I think it falls in your category. There was some work being done on the emergency generator hookups, and we were waiting for some parts. Is that under your committee? We haven't heard anything?
The generator at the sewer plant?
No.
This is the hookups for the
wells.
wells.
And Greg, didn't we put some of that on hold because there were some issues with how the wells are configured or?
Correct, yeah, it's not as easy as it originally projected itself, and part of this grant that we got was to do some generator work up at well 4. So we need to take a look at that a little bit closer.
It was, it was a recommendation, not a requirement in a DEP report. And so we have looked at it and I think it turned out that, I'd have to go back and check the exact numbers, but the parts turned out to be, what we needed was a lot more expensive than what we thought it was going to be. So that with consulting with Greg, it was put on hold until we see how it's going to dovetail with some of these other. One of them, I think, was for in the area where we have out in the watershed where we're going to have the new well.
Correct, so that's going to go away.
So looking at how we can interconnect them so that maybe we can have more than one connected to one generator. There were, I'd have to go back to my notes to see exactly what the,
Well,
what
that
the
one
delay
there,
was.
we had already hooked, Mike and I have already put in emergency generator receptacle on the block building, and we're waiting for an interlock piece, so that one would be completed. And then they are gonna build a new building for the others, and then that was going to be addressed. So there is an interlock piece that was supposed to be ordered for that building, so that that one could be completed,
For the block building next to the creek,
you know?
that's the one we're ripping down.
No, well 3.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So there was that interlock mechanism that was ordered, I haven't heard anything about that. And then the block building up here down from your stand,
4.
we bought that transfer switch for $50 instead of $1,100. It's laying over on the floor of the shed over there.
That's the one we're looking at, is the one.
And then there was other pieces for that building, so that one could be completed. Those were just common pieces, just some conduit, a little piece of wire. So, I mean, this has been about a month ago, and we haven't heard anything. So this is going away, you're not using the generators to back up the wells now? or-
I don't think it's going away. To be honest with you, it's something that's, I won't say slipped through the cracks, but it's something that hasn't been at the top of our radar. I haven't gotten a status report from Mike on it. You know, I'll have to check with him and see exactly where he's at on it. And, you know, like I said, we're working with Greg. I know that there was something that was involved there that turned out to be a lot more complex and expensive than, when we got the quote back on the piece, it was a lot more expensive than we originally thought. And so that was when we talked to Greg, and, you know, he had suggested looking at some of the alternatives there, so.
Well, I'd appreciate if you would look into it, because like I said, we've been, Mike and I have been in limbo waiting for just a call for these parts. And they weren't expensive parts, that's why I'm confused.
Well, and
Our transfer switch was for $1,100 if you would buy a new one, but then we found a new used one for $50. And you guys bought that, and it's laying on the floor.
Well, and that I remember that, because Mike came about getting that transfer switch, I didn't even realize that was for the water stuff. I didn't realize you guys were doing anything on the water. I thought Mike Criley was doing the work on that.
Mike doesn't know the electrical that well.
Well, that was my understanding, and so I thought that was a part for down at the plant. So that's, you know, some of the confusion there.
Well, in that same pile of stuff, then there's 3 200-amp stainless steel weatherproof disconnects laying on the floor over there. And those are thousands of dollars. Why are they just laying on the floor and stuff's getting piled on them?
I don't know. I'll check into it.
I appreciate it.
Move on to revitalization and development. Mr. Adams.
Chickens. That's my focus tonight. We decided to move forward with changing the ordinance to allow chickens in the borough. However, it's not that easy, so at the committee meeting, we're gonna hash out all the details, the conflicts, the good stuff, the bad stuff, and Chris put in the manager's report a tentative timeline to have this completed by, and I think we should be able to match that pretty easily. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, or complaints, issues, they are welcome to come to the committee meeting and express them. I've had a pretty good response from the community showing up the last committee meeting, but I don't know if they will continue because I've already kind of told them, hey, I'm going to move forward with it. That's
My
where-
hope would be that they do come, because they actually, some of them had.
Yeah, there's a lot of
good information.
There's a lot of expertise in the people that are allegedly currently have chickens that I can reach out to when I
Distinct
have,
possibility
when
they
I
might
have
chickens.
questions. Now, I understand that these people aren't experts, but they're the type of person that's going to be housing these animals in the borough, so they know what they're doing. And like I said, I'm just gonna go through the process of hopefully changing the ordinance to allow people to have them in the borough. And then the one item that is not on the agenda is we're gonna start to readdress in the committee the property maintenance code. which will, now that the ball's rolling with the chicken problem, I can, add this to the agenda as well. So next meeting, I'll probably have some information on that as well.
A side note or addendum to the urban chickens specifically, and I think it was in Chris's report, just for everyone at the table and everyone at large, part of that process likely requires our zoning ordinance to have some attention. And there's a cost associated, court reporter and so on and so forth. So if we're going to amend the zoning ordinance, we probably want to make sure there aren't other areas, so we're not doing it piecemeal. If we can address, I know there's some sign issues that we need to address and some other items. So if there are any sections of the zoning ordinance as an ordinance, it's pretty voluminous. Bring those up or refer those to the office or to Chris, and try to, hit them all with one advertisement, with one process to save them some money and some time. I just want to highlight that. It was in Chris's report, but just so everyone's.
And my recommendation is that we look at not the zoning map and the various zones, but some of the other subsidiary things like the signs and the chickens and things like that. Changing the zoning map is a longer process because you have to involve a lot more planning-wise. This still does involve, one of the things, and Bill, I'm going to ask you now, I plan to ask you this later anyhow, without having our planning commission functional, as long as we go to Tri-County 30 days ahead, does that meet the requirement?
Well, it has to go both to county planning commission and your own planning commission.
So we need to get that
Yeah.
planning commission functional
Yes.
in this process, so. We'll start trying to contact the people that are listed as the members and make sure they still want to serve and want to be active and let them know that we're going to be needing their services.
And if we need another person, let's try and find somebody, I guess.
One of the things that have come
Or a
up-
councilman can serve on planning commission.
In fact, one of the things, if we have long-term problem keeping these different commissions and so forth filled, one option that is available under the municipal planning code is that you can have, instead of a planning commission, council can take on those duties through a planning committee. Now, it would involve changing our ordinances and so forth to authorize that and allow that, but that would be another option that, I would hope we can get these folks together for this. We don't really have a whole lot that goes to the planning committee. We don't have any areas really for development and so forth that they need to review. And probably they've just kind of fallen asleep from inactivity. So hopefully we can rouse them gently and get them involved for this.
And if we find that, and this can change in January, but if we find that we can't engage the existing planning commission, or we can't get them to submit resignations, or whatever the case may be, to appoint new people, or if we can't find new people, then I think that's something that falls right in line with revitalization development, as far as, some planning and review and having those people engaged. So that may be a function of that committee if that's allowable, through the
I
process.
think it has to specifically be a planning committee. I'll double check, or maybe Bill's familiar with that.
I'm actually not.
It's a pretty, I think it's a relatively obscure provision, but I've seen it done elsewhere, so.
It would be similar, in my mind anyway, to, we have a Parks and Rec committee, and we also have a Parks and Recreation board. And the board is a very different animal, I understand, than the committee. Rec board.
One point of clarification that I think Chris probably has on his list for you next
Already
time.
got it addressed.
Okay. Defining livestock.
Yep, I got that, yeah, that's what I mean, like the details we're gonna hash out in the committee, so that way when I come here, this is what we're doing, this is where we're at. Because I have 3 pages of things that we need to figure out before we get to the point where I can put something on paper in front of you guys. There will be probably some communication to all of the members of the committee, the mayor, the borough manager, just as I move along. If, I get to a point where I think I need some advice or something, so please, feel free to give me your input through email. And,
Through the borough manager.
What was that?
Through the borough manager.
Okay.
If he sends a message out, everybody responds back to him. It's a sunshine law thing.
Okay. Then we'll do it that way. Okay, that's all I got.
Anything else? Anything for revitalization and development? Move on then to unfinished business. I have one item, and I sent this out, I did send this out via email, if you didn't receive it, except Roger. Sorry. Roger, I have a hard copy, you're welcome to it, or I'll make you one if you haven't already read it. This is the independent study that the Kent Township Commission for the Police Department was conducted last year from, I believe, June, July, August timeframe to the end of the year. And I want to, in particular, make sure Frank received this in your email.
Check.
It should be there. And without going into great detail, I think there's a lot of information here that is very pertinent for some of the somewhat heated discussions we had last year. You know, there are clearly, or were clearly issues within the department. You know, I believe the majority of our decision was based on financial challenges, but I believe that, you know, at least a few times in this room, at this forum, there were concerns about the operation voiced. And this definitely clarifies some of those. I don't think it's any secret whatsoever where I stand in this whole matter, and it hasn't changed. In fact, if anything, it's probably been reinforced by the contents of this document. So if anyone would like a copy, including anyone out there, I gladly will provide it. And there's also a PDF link if you prefer a digital form. That's all I have for unfinished business. Anything else under unfinished business? Any new business? We have a second public comment period. Does anyone wish to comment publicly?
Kind of, sort of. The chicken thing still bothers me.
Come to
I know.
the committee, you need to come to the committee.
Yeah, please come to the committee meeting, because there are so many details that have been addressed, problems and issues that
You may have 3 mostly responsible owners now. You open the floodgates.
right.
Come to the committee meeting, I could use some
part of
help.
it, yeah. Believe me, that's the idea of putting the ordinance in place, so that the whole people do a standard.
But you're not enforcing what you got in place now. What are you going to do to enforce what you're going to plan to create next?
Well, the enforcement issue of the things I would have to address with Chris, through his codes enforcement. I mean, I know you have visions of just hundreds of chickens, but the reality is, I have all kinds of paperwork here on other cities, towns, cities that have enacted goats to be allowed in there, all kinds of research behind this. And the truth is that when you enable people to do it, we're also talking about attaching a permit fee to it. So you can't just go get chickens, you have to come to the borough, submit a permit, have your property have your setup inspected for the chicken, all that stuff, before you even have live animals on your property.
But it still goes back to the enforcement. There's so many irresponsible pet owners with cats and dogs in this town. It makes me crazy.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely crazy.
yeah, you're right, you're
And
exactly.
then now you want to throw in chickens.
And
I just think it's
Well, at the
dumb.
same time, to counter that argument, I've heard the other side of it, you shouldn't punish responsible people for the acts of irresponsible people.
But they were irresponsible getting them in the first place when they weren't allowed.
See, now that's something that I can't, I'm just dealing with going forward.
And Kathy, to make it very clear, the committee's moving forward with a proposal on an ordinance out of response to the public, but just like any ordinance, this will go through the full process and there will be plenty of opportunity for public comment. In fact,
When you have my opinion, I really think it's a crazy thing.
when you, and I'm.
And it's my opinion. And
I would venture there are probably others in the community that share your view, and I would suggest that, like any civic matter, that you might be well to rally the forces that support your view because the others who support the chickens will rally theirs. I don't have a vote. All I will tell you is that I would encourage the public to be involved and make your wishes known to council, and then go through the proper process, the democratic process that we have set up for these things.
And I understand that, but there's a lot of people that won't speak.
Well,
Which is a detriment to this town.
Then,
Yes.
quite honestly, shame on them. You know,
Exactly. But
no,
there's a
realistic, I mean, if you agree, go and support. If you disagree, go and voice that opinion too.
to add to what they're saying, the only negative I've heard about this, and that I've been able to find in my research, has come from the mayor's voice at the, because he was like the devil's advocate at the, you know.
All by myself.
Everybody that showed up for my committee meeting was pro-chicken, so that's all I had in front of me, and the research that I found so far, the negatives have been all, I mean, that's all in here, which we'll hash out at the committee meeting, you know.
And
We
in
encourage
this
you to attend
process,
committee meetings.
because of the zoning change, that will actually require a public hearing,
Yeah, there'll be a process.
not just public comment at a meeting. So,
When is your committee meeting?
It is the first Tuesday of the month, so the next one will be.
National Night Out.
The 8th.
Yeah, National Night Out. So, first
It's,
Tuesday of the month.
it's listed as the 8th.
It's the second Tuesday.
Oh, second.
Second
I was gonna
Tuesday.
say, I think it's the second.
Second
Yeah,
Tuesday,
the
yeah, I'm
8th.
sorry.
And what
I just
time?
get confused month to month.
6:30.
6:30?
6:30.
Please encourage the public to attend.
Yes, we'll move it down.
the other thing I will tell you is that, while I agree with
Every time I call,
Councilman Adams that this is doable by the end of the year, and I think that's I've set that in my timetable as a goal because I don't think it's right to get in the middle of a zoning change and then have new members come on that aren't familiar with, haven't been through the whole process, and ask them to make a vote or decide on it. But where I will disagree with the councilman is it won't be easy to do that. It will take a lot of diligence from the council and a lot of hard work because there are a lot of pieces to this that would have to go together to make this change. And when you have zoning involved, it becomes arduous. There's a lot of extra requirements that are not there for just any other ordinance.
I appreciate you guys listening to me, and just my
We
thought.
appreciate you coming to the meetings and speaking out.
I don't,
Anybody that comes, that's the key to our democracy, is participation. People have to vote, people have to speak their mind, and, you know,
So I will tell you, if I'm sitting in Mr. Adams' chair in revitalization, he has every reason to be going forward with this because everybody that showed up from the public was pro-chicken. So why wouldn't he be moving forward with it?
and I see your point, but I know people that won't come.
Well, shame on
That's their problem.
Yeah.
Is there any
So-
further?
He's
I'm a
acting,
voice
he's
that
acting
kinda
on,
speaks
he's
for
acting
others.
on
You
the
speak for
public's
yourself.
opinion, and the public that came.
I speak for myself, but I also speak for others.
Is there any other public comment? Any wish for action? Thursday at 6 p.m.
Recess.
Make a motion, recess till 6 p.m. Thursday, July
Need a
20th.
motion for that?
Yeah. Yes.
Who was second?
We have a motion by Ms. Young, and a second by Mr. Williams to recess to 6 p.m.
Michael for the motion.
July 20th, Thursday, July 20th.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, can you by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll make a motion to bring it back to session.
So there.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Mr. Kirkhoff to re-enter our session continued from Tuesday evening. Before you, you have 2 letters from Robert W. Morris dated July 20th, as well as the audited financial statements for the year end December 31st, 2015. Any wish for comment, anything, Bob, do you have any comments on what we've seen this for 10 minutes. Do you have anything you'd like to?
I reviewed it. The letters are identical to the letters that were issued to us for the 2014 audit, which is a fair assessment. Of course, the borough, as you know, has been working towards trying to get those items taken care of that the auditors see as areas of improvement or internal control weaknesses and such. But from a reporting perspective, the audit is very similar to that which was issued to us for the 2014.
In your mind, you know, obviously the audit's not, I'll say not clean, but it's not exceptional because of turnover and such. Do you think that that'll hamper some of our loan applications and such?
That's hard to say. We have audited financials, that's what's important.
Right.
they are aware, of government's ability to perform, okay, at the administrative level, financial level. I think what we have will be sufficient, but we got to build on that. We just can't keep doing what we're doing here. We have to build on it, as the auditors have recommended to us in these letters, as the early intervention program, I thought, accurately cited. So that's our goal in the administration, to work toward audited financial statements that are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Cash basis is an acceptable form, but we don't include other things. We don't have like cash flows. We don't have things like that. We don't have notes to the financial statements that explain significant variances or assessments or assumptions. All we have is a PADCED report. So while we're meeting state regulations, and that's what this report says, that's the important thing. We still have a couple of big steps to get to gap-based statements, but we'll get there. It'll take a little while, but we'll get there.
In terms of financing, I don't have any idea with Fulton, but Riverview is very aware of the situation and what we have done and the steps we've taken. We had a lengthy meeting with them a few weeks ago after the initial RFP did not return any results, and when we started a round of the idea of being to try to negotiate with individually. And at that meeting, we were able, it was Bob, myself, Jay, and Mark, and a couple people from the bank, and we answered all their questions, reviewed everything. We bared our souls. We explained all the problems that there were and what we've done to fix them and the steps we've taken, and that seemed to satisfy them. They just wanted to see the numbers.
Thank you. Any comment from the table? Any wish for action from the table?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the audit prepared by Robert Morris and Company for 2015.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Crawford, second by Ms. Young, to accept the audit as prepared by Robert W. Morris and Company, PC, for the year 2015. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Crawford, to adjourn to our August meeting. Any further discussion? We'll see everybody on August 1st for National Night Out. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Have a great night. Thank you.
4 minutes. Woohoo!